That ages us. I saw him in the
Well said.
You had good taste back.
Oh, thank you.
Good morning and welcome to the December 11th, 2024 meeting of the Natural Resources Board here in Madison. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to our great nation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll now call our hybrid meeting to order of the Natural Resources Board. I have a few reminders and some introductory comments before we get to the agenda, so bear with. One is a reminder to turn off all phones and other devices that may interrupt the meeting, and please minimize background noise. We'll have some participants online. Please make sure you're muted and your video is turned off until your item is announced. And note there's sometimes a delay in the broadcast and it's easy to talk over one another. Our NRB meetings are also televised live via YouTube. We welcome and thank all viewers for tuning in. Records of our past meetings are available for review on the Natural Resources Board portion of the DNR website, and it's listed under Natural Resource Board Briefs of Action. Direct public involvement and open, transparent meetings are the foundation for how this board has operated for over 50 years. And it's what we strive to operate as today. Our discussions and decision-making are transparent to all, and public testimony is welcome at every regularly scheduled Natural Resource Board meeting. To ensure fair and equal time for all, please limit your public testimony to 3 minutes per speaker. We've got a light system here to help you with that. The yellow light goes on, you have 30 seconds left on your 3 minutes, and it goes fast. So at that point, please try and wrap up your comments concisely or summarize the point that you're trying to make to the board and to the public. Oftentimes that time is not enough for all the material you have, and we understand that. So there's opportunity to augment your remarks with written materials if you'd like to provide more detail to the board. We certainly welcome that. I would like to extend a thank you to Deputy Secretary Stephen Little and your leadership team for continued strong support of the board and your commitment to enhance collaboration between the department, the board, and the citizens that we all serve. And thanks also to our issue presenters, DNR Information Technology staff, Office of Communications, General Counsel, and all support staff that make these meetings possible. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. Your time is valuable, and we very much appreciate your support. And lastly, I thank all the employees, citizen volunteers, and conservation partners of the Department of Natural Resources for your commitment and tireless work to protect and enhance our natural resources and to serve all citizens of our great state. Board members, any questions or comments? Okay. Please call the roll.
Deb Dasso.
Present.
Patty Stockner.
Present.
Robin Schmidt.
Present.
Bill Smith.
Present.
Marcy White.
Present.
Okay, with that, we have a quorum and we'll be able to proceed with our meeting. Next item is Secretary's remarks. Deputy Secretary Little.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. I just have a brief set of remarks. I wanted to just announce that we are celebrating an anniversary this year at the DNR. It is the 125th anniversary of our state park system. Last week, we had the opportunity to be part of the focus of the tree lighting ceremony, both at the Capitol as well as at the governor's mansion or governor's residence. And it's just been something that we wanted to share with you and just let you know that there's going to be a year-long celebration to commemorate the milestone by exploring our public lands, attending special events throughout the year, and learning about our rich history of Wisconsin state parks. Wisconsin is a recreational destination, and we are thrilled to provide a unique experience for our visitors this year. With more than 20 million visitors to our state parks and forests each year to enjoy the great outdoors of the state. Our legacy with stewardship and recreation began over 125 years ago when the state park system was formed with the state legislature appropriating funds to acquire land on what is now Interstate Park in 1900. That marked the founding of the state park system and has since expanded to include more than 307,000 acres of public land. Today, the park system encompasses 50 state parks, 44 state trails, 15 state forests, 9 state recreation areas, 8 rivers and resources. Looking ahead to the next year to celebrate the 125 years of our park system, we are announcing expanded and enhanced visitor experiences, expanding access to outdoor recreation, parks, and our libraries, and fostering community engagement. So we encourage you all to head to the DNR events calendar to find out how our partners, our contributors and volunteers and community partners are working to celebrate this wonderful occasion. So also, last thing, if you haven't already, please go out and purchase your 2025 vehicle pass. We are moving to a 12-month pass system this year online. So please go out there. They make great holiday gifts. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Stephen, thank you very much especially for highlighting our parks program. I got a very strong message during the pandemic, how important the parks program is to the citizens of this state and people who visit us. The outpouring of visitation and interest was absolutely overwhelming. So very critical part of the services that the department provides, and I know very much appreciated by the public. Thank you. Okay, next item is approval of the agenda, item 1C. Are there any changes to the agenda? I will note that the original agenda had been amended to add item 2E, so we now have the amended agenda in front of us. Are there any other changes? Hearing none, we should have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Got a motion to approve from Doug. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Robin seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We have an agenda. Next item on that agenda is item 2, the consent agenda. We have a number of items under that. I'll read through them. Item 2A is approval of the brief of action from October 23, 2024. Item 2B, acceptance of a donation. The Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin actually will be making 2 donations. The first is $15,000 for management of northern state natural areas, and the second is $60,000 in support of the Wisconsin Bat program. Item 2C, acknowledgement of a donation for Wyalusing State Park, project and maintenance funding. Mark Tibbetts has donated $22,800. This donation will be used to fund multiple projects and maintenance services at Wyalusing State Park. Item 2D, requests that the board authorize a preliminary public hearing and comment period for the statement of scope for Board Order WY-09-24 and conditionally approve the public hearing notice and notice of submittal of proposed rules to the Legislative Council Rules Clearinghouse for proposed rules affecting chapters NR 108, 110, and 150, relating to approval requirements for sewer projects and facilities. Item 2E, acknowledgement of a donation, Walworth County Chapter of Pheasants Forever. Walworth County Chapter of Pheasants Forever raised $28,530 to fund a contractor to do brush work at Bloomfield State Habitat Area, which is managed by the Bureau of Wildlife Management. With that, I'd request a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Got a motion to approve from Patty. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Deb. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. No items under 3. We move on to item 4, action items. Item 4A, adoption. Request the board approve the emergency board order FH-18-24E for proposed rules affecting chapter NR 20 related to the Minocqua chain walleye harvest regulations. Kari Lee Zimmerman, Fisheries Regulation and Policy Specialist. Welcome, Kari. This is one we've heard about before.
You have. It's a repeat. So thank you, Chair Smith, Deputy Secretary Little. I'm Kari Lee Zimmerman, Regulation Policy Specialist for the Bureau of Fisheries. And we are at the last stage of this emergency rule, FH-18-24E, and I'm just coming back to you to allow continued harvest of walleye through the remainder of the 2024-25 fishing season for non-tribal members. We're currently operating under an emergency rule 2406, which expires January 31st. So we're utilizing the emergency rule to get us through till April when the sunset of the prohibition is. And I'm here if you have any questions. Short and sweet.
Very quick and to the point.
Yeah.
Are there questions? Questions or comments from the board?
Thanks for your hard work on it. It's a complicated process to educate us about the role of emergency rules and when they end and things like that. So I appreciate your explanation. And,
Oh, sure.
And again, thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, time for a motion.
I move approval.
Robin moves approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Doug seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Kari. Item 4B, request the board adopt WM-18-23, proposed rules affecting chapter NR 10 related to the Deer Management Assistance Program, or DMAP program. Haley Frater, DMAP Private Lands Team Lead, Bureau of Wildlife Management. Welcome, Haley.
Thank you. Chairman Smith, Deputy Secretary Little, and members of the board, I'm Haley Frater. I'm the Deer Management Assistance Program, or DMAP, and Private Lands Team Lead for the Department of Natural Resources Wildlife Management Program. I'm here today to request adoption of WM 1823 relating to the implementation of DMAP as directed by State Statute 29.020. A little bit closer, yeah. In April 2024, the Natural Resources Board approved the statement of scope for the department to pursue updating the NR code guiding DMAP's implementation. As part of this process, we held a public review period in which written and oral comments were requested. To ensure awareness of the proposed changes and solicit feedback, we sent communication outlining the proposed changes to our over 3,000 DMAP members, as well as conservation and hunting organizations across the state. Some of those included in this communication were private land management groups like NRCS and Wisconsin Woodland Owners Association. We also included hunting organizations such as Wisconsin Conservation Congress and Wisconsin Bowhunters Association, and public land managers, including Wisconsin County Forest Association. We also held a public hearing on September 12, 2024. In addition to the feedback outlined here, we also held a full program review in 2023, which directed the code development. Thus, the code you see today and what was shared with the individuals and organizations is a direct reflection of the information and input received from our members and stakeholders. In 2023, State Statute 29.020 passed, stating that the Department of Natural Resources shall establish a deer management assistance program. Under this program, the department shall provide deer management assistance to participating landowners. The department shall also provide a method for collecting information from participating landowners about deer health and the deer population in the state, and for receiving suggestions from participating landowners about managing the deer population. The department shall analyze the information received and use it to improve deer health and manage the deer population in this state. The department shall promulgate rules to implement this program. The rules directing DMAP's implementation were approved and the program launched in 2014. Since then, the program and code has remained unchanged, except for consolidating the delivery of services to a specialized team of private land deer and habitat biologists in 2020. In 2023, a full program review was launched to evaluate the program's strengths, weaknesses, and niche. This review included a series of focus groups with DMAP members, stakeholders such as Pheasants Forever, Ruffed Grouse Society, National Deer Association, and the Department of Natural Resources staff, including those from wildlife management and forestry. In addition to the focus groups, we also administered several DMAP member surveys and conducted an analysis of member and landowner demographics, including an assessment of members' needs, goals, management implementation, as well as their current barriers to implementing management, amongst other things. Through this process, our mission of partnering with private landowners and hunters to foster positive relationships, implement sound landowner-driven habitat and deer herd management, and collect data to support deer management in Wisconsin was reaffirmed. And 3 areas of improvement emerged. 1, improving members' ability to customize when and what services they are to receive. 2, invigorating the partnership component by increasing data sharing requirements. And 3, improving delivery efficiency for staff. To directly address these changes, 2 key things are proposed in this code. First, a restructuring the program to separate program membership from on-site services to allow for increased customization by members and efficiency for staff. Under the current rule, all DMAP members with 160 acres or more receive the same services on the same timeline, regardless of their desires or needs. The proposed rule separates program membership from on-site services to allow members the flexibility to determine if and when they want elective benefits. This adjustment also increases delivery efficiency by only providing services to individuals who qualify and want them. DMAP's current structure operates on a tiered enrollment system with 3 levels, levels 1, 2, and 3, where the services received and fees paid are based solely on the number of acres enrolled. Thus, with each 3-year enrollment, Level 1 members receive access to DMAP's educational resources, including our member database, MyDMAP, as well as workshops and our monthly e-newsletter. While Level 2 and 3 members, those who have 160 or 640 acres or more respectively, receive a site visit with a biologist and forester, a written management plan, and an assessment for antlerless tags, in addition to the Level 1 benefits. And they receive these benefits with every 3-year enrollment, regardless of their previous involvement with the program or what services they actually want. Under the proposed code, program membership would be separated from elective benefits, essentially converting elective benefits to add-on services. A member can elect to receive when they qualify. Membership would remain a 3-year period per our members' requests during the focus groups, and have all of the current Level 1 benefits, plus a few new ones, including customized property reports that are currently only available to our Level 2 and 3 members. Elective benefits, which would include site visits, written management recommendations, and/or antlerless tags, would now be applied for by qualifying members to ensure that they receive the services they want with the staff they need on a mutually beneficial schedule. For example, under the new code, an individual only interested in tags could receive a site visit and property assessment by a DMAP biologist, but the biologist would no longer be required to write a new management plan, and a forester wouldn't have to be on the site visit. To accommodate this change, the new code includes a fee restructuring. All members would now pay a membership fee to be in the program, and then an additional fee when they receive elective benefits. The fees for elective benefits would be based not only on the size of the property, but also on their previous enrollment with the program to account for the benefits provided to the state by their membership. With the code update is a slight fee increase. During our program review, DMAP members suggested increasing fees for elected benefits and charging a nominal membership fee. However, during our public input session, we heard concerns that fee increases would deter membership. To balance the need for increased revenue with members and potential members' willingness to pay, we're suggesting the fees outlined here. The second major change is adjusting the eligibility requirements to receive elective benefits. Under current rule, only individuals with 160 acres or more are eligible to receive elective benefits, and data reporting is encouraged but not required. The proposed rule reduces the minimum acreage to qualify for elective benefits to 40 acres and requires data reporting to continue to receive elective benefits. To better align the program's offering with our member and state landowner demographics and continuing to work towards managing wildlife habitat at a landscape scale, the proposed code reduces the acreage required to receive elective benefits from 160 to 40 acres. Those individuals would now receive what you see on those first elective benefits. To ensure this change does not result in staff capacity issues, the ability to institute caps was also added into the code. During our program review, our members and conservation partners strongly encouraged emphasizing the partnership component of the program by requiring data sharing for continued service eligibility. To incorporate this, we've added eligibility requirements based on the services the landowner wants. For those interested in receiving antlerless bonus tags or continuing to receive antlerless bonus tags, they would now be required to report annually on their deer harvest and receive a property assessment by only a wildlife biologist every 3 years. For those interested in a follow-up habitat visit, they would need to wait at least 3 years and report on their action taken towards achieving their previously recommended actions. When these requirements are met, a landowner would be able to receive another site visit and written management recommendations from a biologist and, if desired, forester. Although the changes presented here directly affect DMAP members and staff, their impacts extend far beyond the program and its members. Through these changes, we're making significant strides to improve wildlife habitat management across the state and doing so in an economically advantageous way. These changes expand wildlife management beyond the borders of public land. With over half of Wisconsin's forested land and more than 70% of the state's area of greatest conservation need falling on private land, actively engaging private landowners in sound management is critical to managing wildlife populations and their habitat at biologically relevant scales. And DMAP has proven to be an effective avenue for doing so. In fact, nearly 70% of DMAP members report conducting invasive species management. Plus, through our on-site visits, we're able to access land that otherwise would not be visited by department staff, which has proven especially beneficial in stopping practices that can help spread chronic wasting disease. Through efforts like these and others, DMAP expands the footprint of the great management work done on public lands, improving wildlife populations and habitat for all citizens of Wisconsin. These changes also bolster and expand the data available to the DNR to effectively manage Wisconsin's deer herd. The data required as part of the proposed elective benefits eligibility is designed to bolster existing data sets by providing data such as deer age from an additional audience, or providing new data such as the number of antler points that is currently not collected elsewhere, but beneficial in understanding the condition of the deer herd. It also continues to improve the relations between the DNR and Wisconsin's hunting community. DMAP has made and continues to make significant strides in improving the perception of the DNR and Wisconsin hunters. Whether it's through our involvement of outreach activities such as expos or direct contact via phone calls with the general public or one-on-one interactions with members, DMAP staff provide positive interactions that improve the perception of the DNR. In fact, a 2023 survey of DMAP members showed that 94% of them felt that their interactions with DMAP significantly improved their perception of the DNR. And finally, it achieves these benefits and others with a high return on investment. During the Wildlife Management Program's program review process, changes were made to the staffing structure associated with DMAP to improve efficiency and delivery consistency. Thanks in large part to these changes, the Wildlife Management Program is able to effectively provide habitat management assistance on private land while remaining focused on public land habitat management. In fact, in FY24, the Wildlife Management Program spent a little over $580,000 on private land habitat management and $10.8 million on public land habitat management efforts. Thus, with a small investment of money, we're able to reach and impact management on an additional 500,000 acres. It always takes two. The updates outlined within the proposed code make a deliberate effort to improve DMAP's implementation by meeting the members' and stakeholders' goals while incorporating the efficiencies needed to effectively deliver the program within our current staffing structure. Through these changes, we not only benefit our members, but all of Wisconsin's hunters and citizens. With that, I'm happy to address any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. We have no public speakers or appearances on this item. Are there questions from the board? Doug?
For the presentation, Haley, my question relates to the staffing structure.
Mhm.
So the changes were prompted by what, the effort of staff that was previously in place? What prompted the changes?
Thank you for that question. If it's a pleasure of the board, I think that's a question best answered by our Director of Wildlife.
That'd be fine. Welcome, Eric.
Good morning, everyone. Chair Smith, Deputy Secretary Little, and the rest of the Natural Resources Board. My name is Eric Lobner. I'm the Director of the Wildlife Management Program. Great question, Doug. And so we were doing an internal review of all of our operations within the program. It's kind of a standard thing that we do on a regular basis. And some of the things that we were seeing is that, when you had a wildlife biologist that handled a county or several counties, and then you also had some additional unknown at times, when they were going to come in, private lands management projects come forward. What we were seeing is that we didn't have consistent program delivery, as well as our customer service was not necessarily what we had desired as a program. And so what we identified too is that some staff get into wildlife conservation to work on public lands management, while others have a really strong focus on working with private landowners and building that connection to private landowners. Being a private lands biologist years ago, myself, I got to say that years ago, unfortunately. The reality is, there's really, when you hire the right staff to do the right job, it really works really well. I think you can see that in Haley. Obviously, she's an exceptional employee, as well as the rest of our team. And so by streamlining it down to a team of 4, we're able to more effectively provide stronger customer service, as well as provide a more consistent program.
Other questions? Marcy.
Hi, Haley. Thank you so much. I'm guilty of having multiple briefings and a variety of emails back and forth, so I appreciate all the questions being answered. And I think it's just important through that discussion that we had for a more thorough explanation of how we are now offering to go to smaller acreages, but still be able to staff it. If you could just make a point of that, please.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things with that. One, within this code, you're right. We're absolutely going down to 40 acres or would like to go down to 40 acres because it better aligns with the goals and the mission of the program, as well as the demographics of the state land ownership. And in doing so, we've incorporated several efficiencies into the program. For example, right now, one of the things that we have to do on every site visit, every 3 years, is write a whole new management plan. And it has to include both ourselves and a forester. What we are finding is that we have members in DMAP for a variety of reasons. We have some that are in because they're really interested in deer management and deer herd management. We have some that are really interested in wildlife management, whether that be of deer, turkey, grouse, variety songbirds, a variety of different species, and some that are in it more for the education outreach. We have individuals currently, for example, that enroll in our level 2 and 3s solely because they really like our annual harvest report. And so those individuals, for example, we currently have to offer them and go through all the contacts and reality write them a management plan, even though they're not interested in it. And so a lot of what's incorporated within this proposed plan is really to help streamline and make sure that we're providing those services as efficiently as possible.
Okay. Thank you. And if I can
Go ahead.
continue, the second part of my concern was on the fees that we have a variety of programs that when we get a chance to set a fee, that sometimes or often it doesn't necessarily cover the cost of the program. But it was important for me to understand that priorities had to be set and what that sweet spot was on those fees of what landowners would be willing to do. So again, it is a big program. I hope that, in the future, the program has as great a success. I always worry about the field staff getting called on more than they have time for, but I just think it's really important to keep track of how that goes as we go into these budget discussions of what our fee bases are and what programs actually cost, because oftentimes they're quite a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
So again, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? Go ahead, Robin.
I was just going to make an observation that it's really easy for people across the state to demonize an agency, whereas when they work one-on-one with folks within the agency, they have a very different feeling at the end of those interactions. And I think efforts like this program to help establish that rapport, that one-on-one rapport between the excellent staff we have and with our members of the public, it's just a win for the agency. I did speak with some local folks in the La Crosse area, and seriously, and I told you this already, I couldn't get them off the phone. They were just raving about how wonderful this program was. So kudos to you and to Eric and the program. It's very well received, at least in our area. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Other comments, questions?
Second a lot of what Robin had said. Great presentation. I'm excited to kind of see this program move forward. I really appreciated how much you valued and worked hard to get feedback from both the participants, but also the partners, working hard with those partner organizations and finding out, like you said, what your strengths are and your role is. Anything that can elevate the opinion of the department, but also working hard with those other partner organizations, I think is really commendable. And then, the improving of efficiency and really targeting what those landowner goals are. I think you did a great job with this review and the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Other questions or comments? I have one I'd like to ask that's in conjunction with some of the issues Marcy brought up about the fees and the funding and all that. Mm-hmm. My question's a broader one. It's probably unfair to pose it to you. I think Eric, you're so great.
Sorry, Bill. I did go back.
Eric, the board in previous meetings has had testimony and briefings on some of the budget issues, some of the staffing levels, and occasionally we get comments from local areas that, gee, we lost our wildlife technician or our manager, and a sense of loss. My question to you is, this program, you're getting tremendous feedback. You've got recommendations here that appear to be very well-based and a very rosy future. But there's an element of uncertainty in how much people are going to use the program and how much workload and cost is going to come with that. And to me, that is part of the bigger picture with wildlife, with the budget issue, the challenging budget that everybody's working on. Could you comment just in a broader sense of how this fits into the bigger picture of wildlife management and how you're going to be able to manage the uncertainty of the amount of resources that are applied here versus the applications from the public?
Thank you, Chair Smith. First of all, I just want to thank you and the rest of the board for your awareness and interest and support as we work to deal with the challenges associated with the Fish and Wildlife account and the budget situation that we're dealing with there. I hope it's very clear to everyone that obviously the challenges associated with conservation funding here in Wisconsin is an issue that we all need to take on and address in the long term. Looking at how we fund conservation and how it is so critically important to the core being of what we as Wisconsin citizens are is absolutely critical. So thinking about that as we work on wildlife conservation issues, our focus as a program is really trying to work on a landscape scale, right? We are at our core, our habitat managers, and that habitat management work that we do is on public land predominantly. Our focus is to really provide great homes for wildlife wherever we possibly can and work closely not only on our wildlife areas, but it could be our state parks, our fisheries areas, state forests. We have great partners in doing that too. I just want to be clear. As we've seen changes with our staffing suite, we've also had this tremendous opportunity to partner and collaborate with a variety of different groups that we work with, as well as private citizens. We've got great programs that help us do that, whether it's contracts with partners, the ADOPT programs, the Friends programs. It's really quite rewarding when you see all of these members of the public. And Robin, you hit the nail on the head, right? Working closely with people is a core component of what we do for wildlife conservation. So thinking about that, as we try to balance that, not only do we have this public lands component that is a primary driver, right? We have to really focus in on that, and we do. Haley shared the numbers, 2020 and 2024. We focused about $10.8 million on our habitat management work on public lands and about a little over $580,000 on the private lands. The reward there is tremendous though, because we have inherent partners in our DMAP component, right? They're individuals, we tell them, so to speak, what needs to be done, and they come forward and they work to do that habitat work. That private land makes up such a large component of the base land acreage here in Wisconsin that in order to have an effective impact on statewide populations of wildlife, we have to work with private landowners. We have, I'll call them postage stamps. Sometimes those postage stamps are quite large, and sometimes they're a little bit more like the size of your letter envelope, right? But the reality is, working with those private landowners is so absolutely critical for the benefits that come to the public land recreationalists, whether they're hunting or trapping or fishing on that public land. They get benefits from what happens on that private land because the wildlife does not know boundaries. And so they work very closely with those landowners, and that benefit is widespread. We've got to work as an agency, as a program, to ultimately juggle the expectations and the responsibilities that come before us. And so we work to try to balance that. We take feedback on a regular basis. When we were going through this review years ago, we took a lot of feedback from a variety of different groups, conservation partners, the public, business interests that are associated with conservation here in the state to help us find that balance, right? Where is the appropriate balance that we need to have to effectively have an impact on wildlife conservation on a landscape scale, and yet meet our primary obligations of managing that public land and providing recreational opportunities. And I'll even say go beyond that. It's aesthetic appreciations, it's access issues on that public land. So finding that balance is key for us. And so it's really making the best use of our staffing resources plays a key part of that as well. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. I won't get into that, but we have a tremendous team right now that works on DMAP, and they do great things. And so do we in the contrary with our public lands managers. They are excellent at the work that they do. And so it's all really focused on trying to provide that landscape scale benefit and trying to find that balance with the resources that we have available to do the work that needs to be done.
Eric, just as a follow-on, the packet and the briefing that Haley's given us convinced me that there's some wonderful changes to the program. The lower acreage got just resounding feedback from people in the program that's very important to them. And the sense I get, there's a lot of enthusiasm there. There's a lot of interest. And it's a matter of having several important things to the public and fitting them all into an
Yeah.
increasingly smaller bag, if you will.
Yeah.
If this program really grows dramatically because of the changes that make it open for more people to get the elected benefits, to put demands on the program, how does that fit into the increasingly small bag?
Yep,
And how are you going to manage that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that forward, Bill. So certainly some of the things that we've already talked about is really focusing in and making, consolidating our effort in on those biologists. And it's all biologists at this stage of the game. There's no techs. And really focusing in on those efforts, right? Because their efficiency increases. Okay, that's one thing, but you can only increase your efficiency so far. So the reality is in this situation, we have more interest. We've had more interest for a while in what the staffing capacity that we have. So one of the things that we've done is we've been working with a variety of different conservation groups, specifically in the world of rough grouse, or of DMAP, is the Rough Grouse Society, has come forward. We have mutual agreeable benefits and interests where they're working with private landowners, primarily in that northern forest, young forest initiatives. Well, that mirrors and blends with the work that we do. So we have 2 contract biologists that assist with our DMAP offerings. You would never know they're not DNR employees. They're contract employees that we work with. So that's one approach. The other things that we look at really is, okay, we can only handle so many contracts, and we really want to provide a quality product. And so we, at times, may need to cap that. The number of enrollees that we can bring into the program may need to be capped. And so we'll be looking at that down the road based on our current budgets that we have available, our current staffing suite, continuing to make the best use of the money that we have, whether we match it, once, twice, 3, 4 times, who knows, right? If we can bring in additional partners to help us bring additional revenue to the table, to really expand our impact on that private land, because it is such a critically important component for habitat management on a statewide scale.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate the perspective on the bigger picture there. I think that's important.
You bet.
Other questions from the board? Are we ready for a motion?
Make a motion to approve the or adopt WM 1823 regarding DMAP.
Marcy moves adoption. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a race to second. Rachel, I heard you first, I think. So Rachel seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Thank you, Haley.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is 4C. This is to request adoption of Board Order FH-12-23, proposed rules affecting chapters NR 20 and 25 related to Lake Superior Cisco and lake trout regulations. Brad Ray, Fisheries Northern Team Supervisor. Brad,
Chair,
I see you on the screen. Welcome.
Yep. Chair Smith, Deputy Secretary Little, members of the board. I'm Brad Ray, Lake Superior Team Supervisor. Appreciative to be able to present this from snowy Bayfield today. So next slide, please. Today we're in the final stage to request adoption of this final rule that currently been in front of this board as an emergency rule, as most recently as just October. Next slide, please. There's basically 4 components of this rule. One is the main component is lake trout quota setting methodology for the future. We're going to use the methodology as opposed to the hard number to set the quotas and get approval from the board moving forward. The current quota for the 24 through 2026 has been enacted through emergency rules and is currently in place with an emergency rule from October. For Cisco, the only change that we're requesting in this rule is to change the season dates. So the quota season will be just January 1st through December 31st, but the quota value will remain the same, and we'll be back next fall to update that for 2026. Next slide, please. And then there's 2 changes with gear. One is to require a minimum mesh size in trap nets to avoid whitefish unintended harvest, and then tagging requirement on all gill nets that matches what we currently had in place for large mesh gill nets that are under 330 feet. Next slide, please. So there was a small change in the wording of the tag requirements based off of public comments and our work with the Lake Superior Commercial Fishing Board and law enforcement from the emergency rule that you heard in October. But so we're requesting approval for the permanent rule here to allow us to continue to appropriately manage the multi-use fishery by setting new quotas and associated rules. Next slide, please. And so I'll take any questions.
Are there questions for Brad? Okay, again, Brad, another familiar subject that we've been well briefed on in the past, so appreciate the overview here. Hearing no questions or comments, we need a motion. Deb? Deb moves adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Marcy. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Keep shoveling, keep your head above the drifts up there.
I think we'll be all right. Not much snow, just a little lake effect today.
Okay. Just to start. Okay, next item on the agenda is 4D, scope statement. Request the board approve the statement of scope for board order WM 17-24 and conditionally approve the public hearing notice for board order number WM 17-24 and notice of submittal of proposed rules to the Legislative Council Rules Clearinghouse for proposed rules affecting Chapter NR 10 related to the 2025 Wildlife Management Spring Hearing Rule. Scott Carroll, Wildlife Regulations Policy Specialist.
Good morning,
Welcome,
Chair
Scott.
Smith, members of the board, Deputy Secretary Little. I am Scott Carroll, and today before you, we have a scope statement, as Chair Smith said, related to our upcoming spring hearings in 2025. So just a little recap. So we're at the scope statement phase. We have no rule language or question language quite yet. So if the board approves the scope statement today, we'll start working on some language to bring back to the board at a future meeting. I will mention that we were not required to have a preliminary public hearing by the legislature. So this is the first time the board has seen this item. So there we go. Okay, so we pose questions on our spring hearings every year, but in certain years that coincide with the beginning of a legislative session, we propose a rule along with those questions. It's because generally it allows us with the start of the session, we can get a full rule cycle in. And so this would be an odd number year and even number years. The legislative cycle is closing, so we can't get a rule through anyway. So we propose advisory questions. But this year will be a rule year, and these questions can come from a variety of sources. It can come from department staff. They can be resolutions prior that went through this Wisconsin Conservation Congress. They can come from our species advisory committees. So there's a variety of ways that these questions originate. As I mentioned, we have concepts for you today. We don't have the specific questions, but we will bring them back at a future meeting should we get approval of the scope statement. We will then start working with our staff to draft the questions, and we're looking at probably February. We'll bring the questions that we will present at the spring hearings to the board for approval, and then after we have the spring hearings, then we would bring a rule back sometime in June for the board again. So this is the first and one of many steps that the board will get to see this topic. As for the topics themselves, again, these are kind of high-level concepts. Two of these should be familiar to you. So last year, we asked the first two bullet points about the non-edible parts of deer, bear, elk, and then extending the fall turkey season in zone 6 and 7 as advisory questions. They were supported pretty well last year, so we decided to bring them back as part of a rule proposal. The second two are new, and they came from either our department staff. The first one, use of technology to tend traps. That was a department staff idea. And then the second one came from our Deer Committee. So that one would allow statewide disabled hunting to coincide during the youth gun deer season. Currently, our disabled hunters, we have a special disabled hunt that's a 9-day hunt, but you have to sign up with a sponsor. So there's only specific times and properties that you can be on, where we've heard from some of our disabled hunters that they just like to hunt their own property. So this would give them a couple days where they could potentially hunt with, since there's firearms with there's already blaze orange requirements for the youth deer hunt. And this would allow them to be more flexible for our disabled hunters. So that is our scope statement, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Scott?
You want to go?
Doug,
Chair,
go ahead.
thanks. Hey, Scott. So on the technology one, for trap tending, obviously there's going to be language developed on this thing going forward before the spring hearing. But when we say technology, do we have a definition of that, or
We
are we
don't.
making one up?
So I can give you an idea of what we're considering at this moment. So we're thinking like cell cameras, potentially drones, where right now, so when you tend a trap, you have to do it in person. And there's a variety depending on how the trap is set. For a dryland set, you have to go in person every 24 hours. If it's a submersion set, I believe it's 48. And then if it's a water set, there isn't a trap tending requirement. What this would do is it would allow people to not have to do this in person. So I have cellular cameras that I use for deer hunting. They could put a cellular camera on their trap potentially. Again, we have to work out the language, but that's kind of what we're looking at, is something along that line where you would use a source of technology to tend the trap, and then you would get a ping or something that would say, hey, this trap's been set. They can go out and then either dispatch the animal or release it if it's an incidental trap.
One more, Chair. So I'm assuming that then that language is in code now that they cannot do that.
It's actually it's a little ambiguous, which is why we're bringing this up. So it just says, we've had guidance, one kind of coming from both angles, that yes, you can, no, you can't. So I think what we're looking for with this is just, what does the public think about us allowing it? And then if it's not something that is favorable, then maybe we would come back and then clarify that, yeah, you do have to attend that in person.
Right, thank you.
Marcy?
So first, thank you and Sean for getting on the phone with me on Monday. The concerns that I've heard already about this indicate that you're going to get a lot of input. So give us a better picture of how that happens beyond just the Conservation Congress spring hearings. You have an advisory committee and you have organizations that exist specifically. Can you just address that?
Yep. So this topic was discussed at our Fur Bearer Advisory Committee. It was kind of, how to say it, mixed reaction that we got from it.
And is that an internal committee or does that include organizations?
Sorry, great question. That is it's a department created body that includes outside stakeholders. So Wisconsin Trappers Association, other groups are invited as members, and then they have, I think, biannual meetings where we discuss a variety of topics. And a lot of part of the discussion is potential rule changes such as this one. And so this one was discussed at the Fur Bearer Advisory Committee. It was really good discussion. Like I said, like you said, there's probably going to be a lot of comments on this one. But we thought it was, so then when we have that discussion, our staff can produce rule proposals that we then discuss internally as a department about whether or not we want to ask them. And we do that in the fall of years when there's a rule proposal. So we talked about this in September internally, and we felt like it was worth moving forward as a potential question. Now, as far as how this would work, should the scope statement get approved, I have already a meeting set up with our warden staff to talk about what would a potential question look like. Obviously our warden staff have to be able to enforce this. So they're going to be involved heavily in the discussion. There are states that have successfully developed this model. So we would probably look at that as at least a base of how maybe we would want to draft our language. But so what we would do then is we would draft the question. We would bring the question back to the board that the public would see at the April spring hearing. And then also the board would get a potential rule. We view the April spring hearings as our public hearing, so that serves as the official rule hearing. And even before then, the board gets passive review of any rule. You would see the rule document. The public would see the rule document when it would go out for the spring hearings. And then we would get the input. We would then take a look at the input. Where do people think? Do we want to amend like the proposal based on the input we've seen? We would bring any rule back shortly after the spring hearings are in April. I think the soonest we would probably be able to do it is in June, because we also have the Conservation Congress delegation and they provide input on all these proposals each year, and that happens in May. So earliest we would bring this back to the board as a full rule proposal would be June, but you would see the question in February most likely. So again, really early step, it would allow us to begin formulating some sort of concept to bring back that we would flesh out further about the details of how this would work in practice.
Okay. All right. Yeah, again, thank you. I think, yes, the other state's example, and I was told that there is a research kind of code of ethics or whatever that's followed when they can use technology in research projects.
Yep.
So hopefully the university wildlife folks are involved as well.
Right.
Yep. Thank you.
Something to look forward to.
Can't wait.
Who's on the other?
On what?
On the other three.
Oh, no. Ask away.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Robin?
I appreciated you educating me a little bit about the leaving the parts of the harvest out in the field, because I was concerned about minimizing the spread of CWD, and I appreciate that that this rule, these questions would actually help limit the spread by leaving, if there were contaminated animals, by leaving as much in place rather than spreading it to other places. So I was not familiar with the science behind that, and so I appreciate, if I'm correct, that this will help minimize or reduce potential spread of CWD.
It could potentially. So what we see this is being utilized by more people who are primarily public land hunters. And I don't, should this go through, I don't see like, if you're a private land hunter, you're probably not going to quarter your deer, which a good majority of our deer hunters do hunt private land. But to the people who maybe hunt deep into public land, this would be an opportunity or very agreeable to them. And what we've always said is that if, ideally, if you are going to, if a deer is CWD positive, it's best to kind of leave it in the area where you shot it, because if it's already positive, it's spreading prions in that area versus taking it to a new area and introducing it potentially to an area that isn't either as CWD affected or has no, prior positives. So it's probably not like a huge difference maker, but every little bit helps. So.
Other questions? Again, no public comments on this one. Guess it's time for a motion.
Make that motion, Chair, to approve the statement scope board order WM-17-24.
Okay, thank you. Doug moves approval.
Second.
Robin seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Scott. We'll
Thank
look
you.
forward to hearing more about this in the future. Okay, next item on the agenda is other approvals, and under 4E, we have a land exchange and project boundary expansion for Radley Creek Fisheries Area, Waupaca County. Jim Lemke, Real Estate Section Manager. Welcome, Jim.
Well, thank you. Welcome to you, Chair Smith, and to Deputy Secretary Little and the rest of the NRB board. I always enjoy coming in front of the board, and today is no exception to that, with two different real estate transactions. The first being a land exchange, which I think is a good indication of the department's willingness to listen to our neighbors and try and work out a win-win situation. This first transaction is a land exchange located within the Radley Creek Fishery Area in Waupaca County between Richard Pachowski and the department. Mr. Pachowski would like to exchange a 2.84 acre parcel that he owns, valued by appraisal at $22,800, in exchange for two smaller department-owned properties totaling 2.61 acres and valued at $13,100. Although Mr. Pachowski's land is valued higher, he has agreed to have this as a financially even exchange. In addition, Mr. Pachowski has paid for surveys on the land and for an appraisal on his property. The two department-owned parcels include a smaller 1.37 acre tract of ag land that Mr. Pachowski, with department's permission in the past, has previously farmed, and he'd eventually like to add this to his ag holdings, along with a smaller 1.24 acre tract of land, which is adjacent to some agricultural field where he uses an irrigation system to pivot and to irrigate his crops. By accepting that 1.24 acres that allow his pivot to rotate in a 360-degree fashion instead of having to stop where department lands intersect with his pivot. Ownership of this parcel will improve public fishing access along Radley Creek, which is a Class 1 trout stream, and it will allow the department to plant the strip of land into native prairie grasses and hardwoods to prevent ag runoff and ag activities that flow into Radley Creek. Mr. Pachowski will install and maintain fencing along this property line. The property proposed to be exchanged to the DNR is out of boundary. In addition to the exchange proposal, we are asking these 2.84 acres be brought into the project boundary of the Radley Creek fishery area. So with that, Mr. Chair, I respectfully ask for this board's approval to find the department-owned acreage is no longer needed for state's use for conservation and approve the exchange of this land with Richard Pachowski. In addition, that the board approve the expansion of the Radley Creek fish area project boundary to include the acreage proposed in this exchange.
Thank you, Jim. No public comments. Any questions from the board? Okay, with that, we'll need a motion.
So moved.
Deb moves approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Cold weather slowing us down here. Okay. And where did the second come from? Was that Patty? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Any more discussion?
Just
questions?
one, Chair, just
Doug,
thanks to the landowner, Mr. Pachowski, for working with us on this exchange.
Okay, with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
That's number one, Jim. Thank you.
Yes.
Sounds like a very good win-win proposal for
I think it
both
really
the
is.
landowner and the state.
I think it really is, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you're on to item 4F, land acquisition for Ice Age Trail, Waupaca County.
Another exciting opportunity in front of the NRB today. Our second ask involves the potential purchase of 28 acres located in Waupaca County. Interesting, these two parcels are fairly close to each other, actually. And this acquisition will be from the Ice Age Trail Alliance at the appraised value of $175,000. This parcel had been interest for the Department for Ice Age Trail Development for a number of years. When the landowner finally agreed to sell, the Alliance stepped in to ensure a timely closing to accommodate the landowner's wishes. This L-shaped property lies north of and is adjacent to Skunk and Foster Lakes State Natural Area. Will be open to 5 outdoor nature-based activities, which includes 1,800 feet of Class 1 trout water frontage on Sains Creek. Although extremely important for extending and connecting to existing Ice Age Trail, it's always beneficial when a property has multiple public uses to it, such as this property. Skunk and Foster Lakes State Natural Area encompasses about 300 acres that I could figure and has 4.4 miles of improved Ice Age Trail already existing, which features 5 separate glacial pothole lakes and pitted moraine topography. Very interesting piece of property in State Natural Area. The trail is very scenic, quite hilly, and based on public review is a very popular destination for hikers. Acquisition of this parcel will allow for extending the Ice Age Trail with an additional 1/3 mile of trails with the hope that someday the Ice Age Trail can connect all the way up to the Tomorrow River State Trail just north of this property. These trails will be developed and maintained by the Ice Age Trail Alliance with the department's input and involvement. The Skunk Lake State Natural Area also has public parking on the eastern edge of it. With that, Mr. Chair, I respectfully ask for this board's approval to purchase these 28 acres for $175,000 from the Ice Age Trail Alliance.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And again, no public appearances or input. Any questions from the board or comments? Robin?
Just another outstanding reflection of the partnerships that the department has developed, and we keep adding to our public lands, which will benefit future generations to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by
Need the
saying
motion
aye.
first, Chair.
Oops, excuse me, we need a motion to vote on.
I'll make that motion to approve the land acquisition.
These things are really rolling here. The motion to approve from Doug. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Robin. Thank you. Yeah, acknowledging that now, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Hold tight a minute, Jim. We've got some additional.
Nope, I'm done, Mr. Chair.
We have additional business to discuss. Deputy Secretary Stephen Little.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Over the last year or so, I've had the honor and opportunity to announce retirement recognitions, but primarily those have been, posthumously after the recipient has, not posthumously, but you understand what I meant.
Feels that way.
Not to expedite the
Thank you.
the retirement for Mr. Lemke, but it's been my honor over the last year or so as I've been sitting in his chair to get to know Jim and get to experience the passion with which he brings these acquisitions and these opportunities to the department. So it's with a heavy heart, but it's with a lot of joy that I wanted to just publicly thank you for your service to the department and to the state of Wisconsin. So, Jim, congratulations.
Thank you.
Nothing but pride. Thank you. I get these emotions from my mother. So nothing but pride, Mr. Secretary, and appreciation for this board and all the boards before him. I love working with the governor's appointees. They're such classy people, and especially the chairs, none greater than Mr. Smith, and appreciation for the programs I've represented, the thousands of acres that we set aside for conservation and public use, but a lot of pride as well, and appreciation for the staff I work with that are just outstanding, including Jamie Brood, who brings all these documents into organization and helps me along the way. So just a full heart, Mr. Secretary, just a full heart that I'm leaving the NRB and presentations in DNR. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. These are a couple of transactions are a perfect example of a long string of property acquisitions you've made on behalf of the public, and it's a great way to wrap up your career. Thank you very much for your service, and thank you very much for the working relationship.
Get out there and enjoy them.
Okay, with that, we're a little early for open forum, and I know one of our presenters is coming online. So maybe let me ask item 6A, which would be an info item for the 10-year panfish study. That's something that's reasonable between now and 10. All right. So with that, we'll move to 6A, results of the 10-year 2016 to 26 panfish study. Alex Latska, fisheries biologist, Advanced Bureau of Fisheries Management. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Smith, Deputy Secretary Little, members of the board for having me, listening to me today, and for all you do for the state. I'm Alex Latska, a fisheries systems biologist and for the fisheries management program, and I co-chair our panfish team, which coordinates the project that I'm talking about today. As co-chair of that team, I get the pleasure of updating you all on this long-term study and get to share some positive, exciting findings. So the agenda item, do the slide. So the agenda item today is results from this 10-year 2016 to 2026 panfish study. But before I dive into that, I wanted to share a little bit about the main challenge we have in managing panfish populations. So panfish, like most fish in Wisconsin, they're no exception to the rule that people want bigger fish, right? Maybe not as big as the bluegill in Birchwood or that Merle in Madison, but they do want bigger panfish. So panfish in Wisconsin include bluegill, crappie, perch, and all the other sunfishes like pumpkin seed. These are all harvest-oriented fisheries. People want these fish to support their fish fries and things like that. So historically, panfish have been managed under liberal bag limits, Going back before the 90s, most lakes were under a 50 panfish bag limit. Analyses at that time in the early and mid 90s showed declining size structure due to those high bag limits. People didn't like it. NRB at the time actually directed the program to try to investigate lowering the limits and see what it could do. Eventually that led to the new, at the time, 25 fish bag limit that we have now that dates back to 1998. 25 fish is still a lot, and in certain places can add up to a lot of fish being removed from those lakes. Not a problem in certain systems, certain lakes where population is already overabundant, or just where it's productive enough, where it's healthy enough that it can withstand that harvest. But over the last 10 to 15 years or so, there's been a lot of new science showing that's not the case everywhere. There are plenty of other types of lakes where 25 fish or that more moderate level of harvest can cause problems, where people aren't going to experience the fishing that they want, and there won't be as many quality size fish out there. So these are lakes where panfish are growing just fine. They're not overabundant, but harvest is so high that a fish growing, as soon as it hits that harvestable size, it's likely to be kept, taken out of the lake, and overall the population is left with mostly small fish. So this study set out to see if reducing bag limits would reduce harvest enough to overcome that problem and improve panfish sizes overall. So this is the summary of the study, which we've called the Adaptive Management Plan for Panfish. Prior to this experiment, our team at the time did a lot of outreach, spring hearings, questions, surveys, public meetings, trying to figure out what our options were for reducing bag limits beyond the 25 fish bag limit. So those surveys did reinforce people still wanted bigger fish, and people still perceived a problem where panfish weren't big enough. They weren't finding the quality fish that they were looking for. Ultimately, that led to the selection of 3 regulation types that we'll talk about today, and the selected lakes for the experiment. Those experimental regulations were approved by NRB in the 2015 spring hearings package and then supported in subsequent spring hearings votes. So they went into effect in 2016, April 1st, and they're all scheduled to sunset March 31st, 2026, so a full 10 years under the regulation. Objective from our standpoint was to see if any of those regulations could improve panfish sizes by at least a ½ inch. Doesn't sound like a lot, but for a 6 or 6.5 inch fish, a ½ inch can be a big deal. And of course, we wanted them to be socially acceptable. So ultimately, 94 lakes were introduced into this study. Most of them, we were analyzing bluegill responses. A smaller subset, 30, were targeted towards black crappie. In addition, we had 33 reference lakes that we used to kind of control the study. So as I mentioned, most Wisconsin water bodies currently have a bag limit of 25. That's our standard statewide. That means 25 total bluegill plus crappie plus perch. The first regulation, you can kind of see them there on the right, is our most liberal of the 3 options. We call it our 25-10. Basically, it keeps that 25 fish bag limit overall, but says you can't harvest more than 10 of any particular species. So no more than 10 bluegill, no more than 10 crappie. So you could do 10 bluegill, 10 crappie, and 5 perch, but you could not do 12 bluegill, 8 crappie, and 5 perch. So that's the least restrictive option. If you skip down to the third one, same structure, just different numbers. So that one sets the total bag limit at 15 fish, but no more than 5 of any species. We call that the 15-5. That's the most restrictive of the 3 we tested. Number 2, the one in the middle, keeps that 25 bag limit, our standard bag limit, for most of the year, but reduces to that 15-5 just for the months of May and June. That's when panfish are spawning, when they're more accessible, and when most harvest occurs. We call that one the seasonal 15-5. So our staff have been collecting data on most of these lakes, mostly since 2021. We wanted to start in 2020, but things were weird. So most of this data come from 2021 to 2023, and we've been working the analyses up over the last year or so. So overall, this was a huge success. Some lakes responded really, really well, much better than I think most of us even expected. In fact, our now state record pumpkin seed was caught out of one of our lakes, Silver Lake in Washington County in 2020. It was 11 1/8 inches and 1 pound, 3.5 ounces. So that Silver Lake is under that 15.5 regulation, but we weren't actually evaluating pumpkin seed with this. They're kind of tagging along for the ride. We analyzed bluegill and crappie as our focal study species, and they also improved. So some bluegill populations improved by more than an inch, a couple cases of 1.5 inches. Crappie populations by actually over 1.5 inches, somewhere up to 2.5 or 3 inches. These are really big improvements for panfish, but those were, you know, the rare, really ones that did really well. So on average, these improvements were largest and most consistent in the 15.5 regulation. That's 15 panfish in aggregate, but no more than 5 of any species. You can see that in the figures. I'll kind of explain them. So the top one is bluegill. And basically what you're seeing is the number of lakes that improved or actually decreased by any amount on that horizontal axis. So you can see the reference lakes are kind of in that green turquoise in the background. Most of them didn't change. They kind of stayed right around 0 change. Some improved a little bit, some declined a little bit. The purple is the 15.5. And you see that kind of juts out to the right of everything else. Those are the lakes that did the best. So that purple one is the only one that's statistically different from our reference lakes, which is what we're looking for, trying to see if something improved that didn't happen in these lakes where we didn't have an experimental regulation. So that 15.5 was the only one that statistically improved for bluegill. If we average that out, it was an average improvement of 0.6 inches for bluegill, which met our objective. Crappie, like I said, we had far fewer data, way fewer lakes examined, so we couldn't statistically say this regulation was that much different from any others. But again, we did see that purple jutting out to the right. Our biggest improvements were under that 15.5 regulation. And on average, lakes under that regulation improved by 1.6 inches. So it's a big increase. So there's 2 conclusions we can draw from this. First, the 15.5 appears to be the best for overcoming this high harvest that we were concerned about that causes these size structure problems, especially for bluegill. And it's actually, like, we don't think it's the 15 that's doing anything. The 15 component of that isn't helping bluegill overall, but that 5 bag component. If it's no more than 5 bluegill, that's where that size structure improvement comes from. The second is, you see there's some lakes on the negative side. There's some lakes that didn't do well in this study. There's a lot of lakes that stayed at 0 and some lakes that actually got worse. So that tells us we can't just apply these types of restrictive regulations everywhere. There's lakes that are overabundant where decreasing harvest can actually harm the population in terms of size structure. So we have to be careful where we put them. Okay, so the second objective of the study was to make sure that these regulations would be socially acceptable, make sure people like them. So we did a suite of, I say we, this is mostly led by our social scientists in the Bureau of External Services. They were fantastic, did a really good job organizing these studies for us. We did 3 kind of mixed methods to evaluate people's opinions, preferences, perceptions of the study. Those included focus groups with lake associations plus other residents and cabin owners, people who were really intimately involved with 6 of our study lakes. Then we conducted an intercept survey. That's that picture of the little card on somebody's windshield. We distributed those cards to vehicles parked at the boat landings on 38 of our study lakes to ask, what are you catching? How big were they? Do you like the regulation? Do you not like it? Things like that. And then we did a statewide survey, random sample of anglers, 10,000 license holders, asking same types of questions plus a lot more. So we learned a lot about panfish perceptions and preferences, opinions through those studies. Overall, from our perspective for these 3 regulations, they were supported across the board. People are really excited about restrictive regulations. They want them everywhere, even if they may not always be appropriate everywhere. And low levels of opposition. The focus groups were especially enlightening because we really got to dig into those details in conversation about where those opinions came from. And one of the things we found was even if they didn't think the regulation was working yet, maybe they were under the 2510, they didn't think it had really caused any improvement yet, they wanted to go even more restrictive. They said, let's go to the 15.5 or let's go to the seasonal 15.5 and try to do something better. Or they had other concerns like maybe there wasn't enough awareness yet, and there's still an opportunity for this thing to work. So they still had confidence in it. all the focus groups 100% supported their reduced bag limit or moving to something even more restrictive. Sorry, too many pages. Sorry, got to go back one. So while there was low opposition overall, there was a little bit more statistically significant opposition to that 15.5. That wasn't something that really surprised us. There's a lot of, even though most people say they want fewer fish that are bigger, there's still a lot of people who want to harvest as many fish as possible. And we heard from those folks. So when the bag limit is 5 bluegill, obviously if they're going to those lakes and they want to catch 10, they have to stop when they hit 5. They're going to express some disagreement with how we use that regulation. So we did hear from them. It was a minority of the respondents, still most people supported, but that was something we found that we have to keep in mind. Okay, so with this study coming to an end, these regulations are all sunsetting in 2026. It's kind of time to figure out what comes next. So as part of the 2025 spring hearings package that you'll get in February, we will be proposing, we've analyzed all the data, we're proposing basically a suite of new 5-bag regulations targeted towards the specific panfish populations that we think can most benefit from it. Our staff have been analyzing data from the study and from other lakes and more historical data, and working with their stakeholders to figure out what's best for the system, and also is it going to be acceptable to the public. So that's where the lakes that will be in that proposal will come from. Those proposals will keep that 25 standard daily bag limit. We don't intend to change that. We're not asking to change that at this point for 2 reasons. The first is that there's still lots of lakes with high densities of panfish where we don't want to apply these restrictive regulations because we need to be careful. We don't want to hurt those populations. And to make sure we still have high harvest opportunities for the folks that prefer to go catch and keep 25. So we can keep a diversity of experiences on the landscape is kind of the hope. So in addition to that, we are working on the project report for all this and hope to get that out next year. And we'll be holding online public meetings to try to share some of these results prior to the spring hearings when the public will be asked if they want to pursue these regulations. So yeah, so this information item today is kind of intended to give you the background on the study before we get into all those proposals where we'll get in a little bit more detail. So thank you for your time today. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you, Alex. Are there any questions from the board? Doug?
Thanks, Chair. Alex, do you think, so the proposal that would come would be just for the study lakes?
It'll be a combination. So when we asked our staff to start figuring out what lakes they wanted to add the 5 bags to, we said, first, we need to figure out what's happening with the 94 lakes. So some of those 94 lakes will be keeping under some version of the 5-bag. Others are actually going to go back to the 25 or use our other option, which is a 10-bag. Then we do have a handful of other lakes where there's been, lake associations really over the last 4 or 5 years, they've been asking for reducing our regulation on a particular lake. And we've kind of been holding them off, saying, let's wait on the results of the study to figure out what's best, make sure it lines up with what we're going to do in other lakes across the state. So we kind of had a handful of lakes that were ready to come in, ready to implement something like this. So we do have some additional lakes beyond those 94 that will be in that package.
And my other part to the question is, how do you communicate those changes? I mean, obviously they're regulatory in the regs, but are they posted at boat landings? I mean, I remember the trout changes. So
yeah,
you went to some waters, you catch 3 trout, you go there, you catch 4, 2. It's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, well,
so
sorry,
I'm wondering how we communicate that and make sure there's compliance.
Yeah, we're working on our communication plan, and we'll do our, standard social media and regs pamphlet and our online regulation tools to list all those. But of course, we'll have signage at each of these lakes that has a non-statewide regulation. That's our standard practice. Certainly some signage could be updated, but that's, yeah, we'll be working on signage and trying to have our staff work with the locals. I think that came up in our focus groups. A lot of people just didn't actually know that it was under an experimental regulation, and we kind of need to do a better job of communicating that face to face.
Thank you.
Other questions? Marcy?
Question on the methodology on your return rate on the surveys. If you think about the person that gets a week up at the lake, would they have been contacted through the questionnaire most likely?
Most likely.
And do you know if that was a good response rate?
Yeah, we did two methods. 5,000 we're evaluating online surveys, and 5,000 we did with kind of traditional mail surveys. Our response rate for the mail surveys was 50%, which is very good. People were very interested in taking the survey. It was really low for online, so we didn't lean on those results as much. The second thing we did was maybe this wouldn't capture those seasonal residents as well, but we didn't want to just ask a full random selection of all licensed anglers, because we might not get people who actually know these waters, and we were asking questions about these waters. So we took a little radius around each study lake and identified all the license holders with addresses within that radius, just trying to increase the number of people that knew at least one of our lakes. So we did that for half of them. The other half were fully random from anywhere in the state. I don't think we have a way other than in the focus groups to say a certain survey response was from a seasonal resident versus a year-long resident versus, someone who doesn't live or have any property on the lakes. But I think we did capture them a little bit, but I don't know. We can't quantify and say exactly the proportion of each type that we got.
Okay, and then just a follow-up. I have the same concern. I mean, when for example, the bass regulations on which lake you're on, which date, how many inches it can be, things like that. And I'm glad there's experts that are going to figure this out, because you look at the benefits and how do the benefits balance out the potential confusion and challenges of that recreationist out on the lake would be of concern. Whether it be the trout or bass or whatever, trying to simplify regulations for the public is always a challenge, and I think this one would be tough. But I'm happy to see that somebody catches 25 bluegill in a day, because
it's not many.
Not on our lake.
Yeah. No, we have other data on how many people actually keep 25, and even how many people keep 10. It's very few. Most people are keeping that 5 to 8 in any trade,
right? What they can
family
utilize.
fifth fry.
Yeah. I would think that would be a significant issue. And then, as always, and I know wildlife gets sick of hearing me say it, but the combination of how you match habitat improvements into the population and the size of the fish, how those two blend together. And I think we had a research study presented a couple years ago on some of that, of what habitat needs were in some of our northern lakes. So like I said, I'm glad you're going to figure that out, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick comment on in response. We do ask questions, like we're very cognizant of the simplicity versus complexity issue. So we ask those questions in the survey, and all the people that we're hearing from, they want, they live or fish on specific lakes, and they want everything tailored. They want it as complex as possible. Obviously, that adds up to a situation that becomes untenable. So we do try to find that balance and communicate and educate in a way where hopefully it doesn't appear as complex as it might if you just hear, oh, we're going to change a bunch of these regulations, all these specific things. Provide online tools to make it easier, maps, things like that. So we're trying to balance that and communicate these in as simple and understandable of a way as possible. The second thing on habitat, panfish, they're everywhere. They grow pretty well in most places. One of the main drivers of the panfish populations, especially bluegill and crappie, is harvest. Main drivers of size structure. We haven't found there's in certain lakes, if you can increase predation where you have really high densities, predation can help, but people harvest a lot of panfish, and overall we're finding otherwise these experiments wouldn't find success, right? If it was all driven by predators, then you wouldn't see a change after you institute a regulation. So,
and I could see where very lake specific. People
Yeah.
get territorial.
Yes.
Thank
Other
you.
questions, Robin?
Yeah, and I know we're getting close to the break time, so I don't want to belabor the discussion too much, but it's really, really interesting, and I have learned a lot. So you only, what you're looking at now though only applies to 90 some lakes. Are you learning how to extrapolate the parameters of those lakes to across the state? Because like we have more lakes than Minnesota, I think, even though they're the land of 10,000
And we have
lakes.
fish in ours.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But is your intent to, now that you have learned this and continue to learn more about this, consider extrapolating it to other lakes that might have similar characteristics? Is that kind of the
Yeah, that's part of the analysis. Looking at predator densities in those systems, looking at the habitat types, trying to tease apart what drove why did one lake succeed so well and others not. A lot of that is the starting conditions in the panfish and were they really over harvested. We can see that by looking at current size structure plus growth rates. Like if they're growing well, but the size isn't there, it's a really good indicator that they're probably over harvested. So that's what we're using for this initial round of introductions into the new regulations. But the habitat and lake types and lake area and productivity and latitude, all those other things affect how panfish grow. So those are part of it as well.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I was just wondering if you included any demographic information in some of those surveys, just to kind of gauge different motivations and the goals of the people that you're.
Yep. Yeah, there weren't probably most of the things that you would expect. More urban, younger anglers were more likely to prefer the higher or the reduced bag limits and higher size structure, but we did see that support, across the board. It was just that those people were even more likely for reducing bag limits. There's a handful of other demographic factors, but I don't have all those results memorized off the top of my head.
Other questions? I have a couple of quick ones. The lakes that did well, purple lakes, do you attribute that strictly to a reduced bag limit available to the anglers? Or was there a possibility that having a more restrictive limit on the lake reduced the amount of effort? So did you evaluate the impacts on effort or interest from the anglers?
Yeah, great question. We were very cognizant of that going in. We evaluated effort in a couple of different ways. The end of the story is it appears to be harvest. It does not appear to be effort. We actually worked with UW-Stevens Point researchers to do a study where we basically counted how many people were using these landings at different lakes and tried to figure out how that related to overall panfish pressure. Did that before and after the study. We only saw one little shift downward in 1 year, and then it compensated the next year. What we think is happening is that there's a few people, the harvesters, who aren't going to go to these lakes anymore. We also hear from people who say they're targeting these lakes because they know they have big panfish. So overall effort pretty much stayed the same, but who's going to those lakes is different. We also heard in our focus groups, there is that motivation, especially when you talk to lake associations, they want to keep other people off our lake. And they think that that helps. We tell them, well, the data don't really support that that's happening, but they like that justification for it anyway. We have a couple creels that have occurred, creel studies that have occurred on study lakes, and those haven't shown any significant change from their prior creels. So all the data that we've looked at suggests it's not a changing effort, changing where people are going, but it's actually what they're taking home when they go there.
So my last question is one on the social side of things, particularly for the more experienced panfish fishermen, those people that fished for years with a 50 fish limit and then a 25. How well have they made the transition on these test lakes to a much more restrictive limit? And do you have an idea of the level of compliance with that, either through your creel clerks or law enforcement?
I don't think I have a great answer for you. I haven't spoken. I mean, we've worked with law enforcement on the package of regulation changes and trying to understand what's going on. But in a lot of areas where our wardens have been understaffed, we haven't known really what's going on, and the reports that we get are more from the focus groups. And they did think, they can't say like, oh, it was a generational thing or anything like that, but they do think there was some overbagging occurring. And we heard stories about people, watching from their living room windows and see somebody out on the ice catching 5, taking it back to their car and going back. And we get reports of that, but I don't know, how is that common everywhere? Is it common across all 3 of our regulations that we tested? I don't really know. We certainly want to increase awareness and enforcement to decrease that as much as possible. But it's like any other regulation, and wardens are stretched thin. So there's a lot of things to focus on. So where it falls on their plate isn't really up to fisheries management. But if we can increase awareness and increase support for it, then maybe we don't have to rely on enforcement as much.
Yeah, that communication, education end of it, working with the local groups could be very helpful.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with questions? Okay, Alex, thank you very much. Very informative presentation.
Thank you all.
Okay, with that, we're slightly past our 10 o'clock, so let's go on break. Plan to be back at 10:20. And when we get back, we'll go right to item 5, open forum. 10:20, we'll call a meeting back to order and we'll resume the agenda with item 5, open forum. We have 2 people signed up to testify. First one is Jim Olson from Madison, representing 232 petitioners on Home Lake Rule petition filed February 9th, 2024. And the topic is Wisconsin Aquatic Invasive Species Management Plan. Welcome back, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Smith, Deputy Secretary Little, and members of the board. I'm Jim Olson. Although I did file a petition on behalf of 232 petitioners, what I'm saying today is from some concerned citizens, some of them being parts of the group, but I don't feel comfortable in saying I've talked to all 232. So I'm Jim Olson. I'm a practicing lawyer, have been for 58 years with the firm of Lawton, Cates, and Madison. John Lawton was my mentor and was a former chairman of this board. My dad, Paul Olson, sat on this board, appointed by Governor Gaylord Nelson many years ago. And my partner, Scott Hassett, was the secretary of DNR for a number of years. I've practiced environmental law. I've taught environmental litigation. I've taught really all kinds of litigation. I've practiced all kinds of litigation. I'm particularly concerned about the invasive species issue, especially when I found out that in the ballast systems of boats, they cannot be fully drained and they risk the spread of invasive species from one lake to another. I also found out that NR 19.055 requires that ballast systems be drained, and that studies show that they cannot. And that's therefore that since it's almost impossible to inspect and enforce, 19.055 is unenforceable. That caused the filing of the Home Lake Rule petition in February of this year. Now, since that time, quagga mussels have been discovered in Lake Geneva. And that's very serious because they destroy the bottom of the food chain. Now that quagga mussels have also been discovered back in about 2008, 2010 in many Western states. And those states immediately took action, passed regulations, and as a result of passing regulations, decontamination units were built, and they, as a result, quagga mussels are no longer a problem in most of those states. Now, one of the systems that was developed is called the Hydroblaster. It's a thermal system. I provided the board and the department with a video of it. It's an excellent system. It's been used in hundreds of lakes throughout the West, and they do a great job in dealing with these quagga mussels. I had hoped that we could get some regulations passed. The Home Lake Rule I threw out there as a possibility. It has stalled, I think, primarily because we do not have decontamination facilities available in Wisconsin. Seems like first you get regulation, then you get the facilities. Now, however, I don't want it to be stalled because of a lack of decontamination facilities in Wisconsin. Therefore, a group of canoeists, kayakers, anglers, and other people interested in the outdoors have put together a fund, and we will be buying a Hydroblaster, and it will be available in Wisconsin. I see I'm out of time, but I have a little bit more to say. It will be available in Wisconsin in 2025. We have a system that people who are anglers, et cetera, are buying. However, to make it work, we need to partner with DNR. And we were asking DNR to partner on this and have a pilot project in 2025 so that regulations can be developed and more systems can be installed, and so that we can deal with the problem of invasive species in Wisconsin. This, I think, is a very exciting project, and I think we will be able to have at least one in place, but we need the department to partner with us for a pilot project. Now, are there any questions?
Well, thank you for your your generous offer, Jim. It's interesting. It's going to take more discussion and detail to get into the nuts and bolts of what you want in terms of department support and whether or not it's appropriate for the department to do it. I guess my instinct would be to refer that project to Deputy Secretary Little and see if he could have some staff work with you on that and see if it's a viable invitation.
Well, that's certainly what we would like, Secretary Little.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. You've given us and continue to give us a lot to think about. So I appreciate the research and I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Okay, well.
Are there questions or comments from the board? Doug, go ahead, and then Robin.
So James, is the Western states regulations you mentioned specific to wake boats?
No, they're specific to basically all boats. And incidentally, this hydroblaster unit, it can decontaminate all boats. I mean, it's not only just it does a great job in the ballast systems, but you can also, decontaminate the hulls, the interiors, the live wells, the build systems. It's a great system. They've sold hundreds of them. They work, and they worked out west, and they have basically solved the quagga mussel problem.
Robin?
Yeah, thank you. I was just curious if you could give us a price range for those and whether or not they're mobile. How mobile are they?
Oh, let me answer the first question. The second question, yes, they are mobile. So the system that we would be buying would be mobile. It could be used in multiple locations. And that's one of the things we would like the department to help us on is, where should it be used? How can it, can you use it at way stations, which you probably can? Can you use it at rest areas? Or are there DNR facilities where it could be used? Another issue has to do with what does it take to operate them? Now, one place uses interns from a university to operate them in the summertime, and they get university credit. So how will it be operated? Your first question had to do with the cost. The hydroblaster, the quote we have gotten is about $30,000. So about a fifth of the cost of one wake boat. We feel that in order to make it work, we're probably going to have to raise $50,000 as part of the purchase price. They, will install it out, send it out here, and they will give 2 days worth of training on how to use it. So just to be on the safe side, we feel that it's we better raise $50,000 to make it work. And I can tell you, now we're still in the process of working with other organizations. I can't disclose who they are, but we're very excited about them. But they, all have boards of directors that have to approve it. We've talked to major people in the boards, and we're quite sure they'll approve it. And this fundraising project has been going for, maybe 10 days, and we already have 25,000. There is a system out there that costs $800,000. It's like a big swimming pool, and you drive the trailer and the boat in, and it does a great job decontaminating them. And the state, I don't know if this is Utah or Colorado, has figured it's worthwhile to go and purchase some of these. And they do a great job, but I'm not coming here asking the board to pay $800,000. And certainly we couldn't raise that amount. But we certainly can raise enough, I think, to have at least one of these hydroblaster systems. And Secretary Little, I'd very much like to talk to people from the department. We can set up a Zoom meeting, we can brainstorm it, and get going on the project so we can find out how it could work in Wisconsin, and I'm sure it will if there's interest.
Well, Mr. Olson, the department has engaged with you on several opportunities throughout the year, and I'm sure we'll continue to do so.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Other questions from the board? Again, Jim, thank you for your tenacity and your commitment to this particular issue. You've researched it heavily and come up with several innovative approaches, and I think that's what we need to move forward. I
Yep.
appreciate it. Thank you.
I hope one of them will work.
Okay, next person on our open forum is Dana Herman from Shell Lake, speaking, representing the Sierra Club of Wisconsin chapter. And the topic is lead poisoning in wildlife and lead-free alternatives. Dana, I see you on the screen. Are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Smith, members of the board, Deputy Secretary Little. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today on lead toxicity in wildlife and lead-free alternatives. My name is Dana Herman, and I am speaking on behalf of the Sierra Club Wisconsin chapter. I would like to thank the department for including a page on their website containing scientific information explaining the detrimental effects of how lead poisons and kills wildlife. There is one document on the DNR website that I also provided for you titled Lead Exposure in Wisconsin Birds, and it explains how an increase in wildlife fatalities from lead toxicity runs from October to December, overlapping with the hunting seasons in Wisconsin, indicating that lead ammunition is a major source of lead exposure in wildlife. Lead fishing tackle was also recovered from the GI tracts of loons in all cases where lead toxicity was a major cause of death. According to the largest study of its kind published in 2022, nearly half of all bald and golden eagles in the United States have lead poisoning. Lead toxicity can also be a contributing factor in the death of wildlife by causing disorientation, leading to birds being hit by cars or colliding with wind turbines, which actually recently happened in Lafayette County. A local raptor hospital stated of 73 bald eagles that were admitted this year, there were only 3 that did not have measurable lead in their bloodstreams. The UW vet team, along with the Dane County Humane Society Wildlife Center, have been working on a 10-year study, and their testing found that 63 different species showed exposure to lead. And of the 752 animals admitted with lead exposure, only 28% were able to be treated and released. A recent citizen resolution was supported by the WCC asking to include educational material on lead in hunter education and in fishing and hunting literature produced by the Wisconsin DNR. So how would we implement this? Well, we can turn to organizations that specialize in lead-free alternatives for help. And there is one organization who has agreed to help us, and it's called Sporting Lead Free. They currently work with Wyoming Game and Fish, Montana Fish Wildlife, and then Colorado Parks and Wildlife. The other question is where should we include these educational materials? And we could put a pamphlet in the Tackle Box Loaner program. We could put up information at shooting ranges, at our state parks, or wildlife areas, on the DNR Facebook page, at CDAC meetings, and how about in our hunting and fishing regulations? And we can also look to the Wisconsin DNR 2010 Action Plan for Reducing Lead Impacts in Wisconsin for ideas. I sent you guys, this was one of the documents that I sent, and it has great information in it. As stewards of the land, it is our responsibility to educate citizens on the efforts of lead used in the effects of lead used in hunting and fishing to protect Wisconsin's wildlife for future generations. And please remember that video, I hope you watched the video of the bald eagle suffering as it was dying from lead toxicity. That's 100% preventable. Thank you.
Very compelling video, Dana. Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Dana, thank you very much. A significant issue. Appreciate your message and your information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move back to the agenda to item 6B, information item, a presentation on the Lower Wisconsin Riverway Board. Diane Brousseau, Administrator, Division of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and Mark Cupp, Executive Director, Lower Wisconsin State Riverway Board. Welcome, Diane and Mark.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Smith, Deputy Secretary Little, members of the Natural Resources Board. Yes, I am Diane Brousseau, Division Administrator for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. And I'm really happy to be here today. It's always fun to come and be able to celebrate successes. So I'm joined here today with Mark Cupp, Executive Director of the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway Board, and together we will be presenting an overview of the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway for item 6B. So first off, I will get us started and just share a few property highlights. I'm going to touch a little bit on the DNR's roles and responsibilities as they relate to acquisition, as well as to resource and recreation management, and then close with how our roles are complementary and truly successful. And then I will turn it over to Mark, and he will share some of the board's responsibilities, as well as the role that they play really in that aesthetic protection of the riverway. So as most of you know, again, the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway was created in 1989 when Governor Tommy Thompson signed Wisconsin Act 31. The unique riverway designation for this, as opposed to say the designation of a wildlife area or a state park, that riverway designation really established the purpose of protecting, maintaining, and managing that rich and uncommon natural resource that we have here. Look, both cultural resources and the natural resources, and the outstanding natural scenic and recreational qualities of the Lower Wisconsin corridor. The Lower Wisconsin Riverway, again, don't need to say, it is significant. It is the longest free-flowing stretch of river in the Midwest. It's also recognized as a wetland of international importance by the United States and the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. It's also included in the Lower Wisconsin River Important Bird Area. It really is a very important flyover. It provides that critical habitat for many forest, grassland, and marsh birds of conservation concern. Overall, it truly is, again, one of the most significant conservation and recreation areas in the state. So I've got the map up here. The riverway, again, extends 92.3 miles from below the dam at Prairie du Sac into the confluence with the Mississippi River near Prairie du Chien. And really, to illustrate the complexity of this corridor, just think of this now. It flows through 6 counties, 22 towns, 9 villages, and 2 cities. So among the DNR's roles and responsibilities, one of these is acquiring land within the riverway. So the project boundary of the riverway encompasses about 95,000 acres of public and private land along the corridor. And within that project boundary, the department owns, let's go back one here, owns about 51,000 acres and has about 5,000 acres of easement lands. So 9 separate wildlife areas were consolidated to create this property. So those existed before the riverway was created. So those 9 separate wildlife areas were consolidated as part of this property. And since 1990, there have been 747 additional individual transactions to acquire land specifically for the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway. And this comes at the cost of acquisitions to date is around $42.6 million. And funding for the acquisition and management of the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway and the state wildlife areas that were there before they were rolled into this come from a variety of sources, including stewardship. So this project truly is just a shining example of what's possible with stewardship funding, which again, the legislature established to preserve valuable natural areas and wildlife habitat, protect water quality and fisheries, and expand opportunities for outdoor recreation, all of which are happening within this project. So the department is also responsible for the resource and recreation management of the property. Resource management actions for the approximately 51,000 acres of the department managed lands are primarily focused on habitat management and native community management. So our management goals reflect the high quality natural communities in a continuum of connected habitats. We really think of it as those habitats going from river to the hilltops. This includes habitat for common wildlife as well as wildlife species of greatest conservation need. It also includes the management for we have 20 of them, 20 state natural areas that are embedded within the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway that are really all excellent reflections of the diversity and the biologically rich landscape that we have here. Management goals are also focused on protecting and enhancing the range of important natural communities. We've got closed canopy older forests, we've got the floodplain forests, oak barrens, dry prairie, open wetlands, and the aquatic features like the oxbow lakes and sloughs present on this property. Resource management goals also reflect using principles of sustainable forestry to support habitat and the scenic management consistent with the Riverway rules that were all rolled into the creation of this project. And bottom line, the management that we're putting in place, and again, specific to the forestry, is really ensuring that the effects of the management, of the cutting, of the timber harvest are really minimized from that visual viewpoint from the river. That's really all rolled into the management that's taking place from that resource point of view. Recreation management wise, I can't overstate the importance that the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway plays, for the recreation opportunities. Truly is a unique and important, not only to the region, but also to the state as far as playing that role as recreation opportunities. It is the largest public property in southern Wisconsin and one of the largest in the state. It provides abundant public open space for a broad spectrum of recreational activities. This ranges from hunting and fishing. We've got hiking. We've got pheasant stalking out there, wildlife viewing, horseback riding, and boating. And for many hunters and anglers, this property in this part of the state really is the predominant hunting and fishing resource. So again, can't overstate how important this is. And then we've got all of the river recreation. In particular, we've got the fishing, canoeing, sandbar camping. They're all a major draw for people from across the state and especially the upper Midwest. These are all coming and contributing important dollars to the local economy. So throughout the length of the Riverway, public river access, again, is provided by counties, local municipalities, as well as the department. In total, again, if we're going to have this resource there, we want to get people out there using it, right? So we have 23 existing public boat landings on the main stem of the Lower Wisconsin, again, between the Prairie du Sac and the Mississippi. Of those, 7 are managed by the department. There's over 80 other parking lots to accommodate outdoor enthusiasts visiting the Riverway. I know we're among them. We go there frequently, taking the dog for a walk. All of those units of the Lower Wisconsin are fantastic. So love walking all of the managed roads back there and the opportunities that are there. So again, the department's responsibilities for acquisition, the resource management, recreation management that we do are guided by that creation of the Lower Wisconsin Riverway and the rules put together with the board. And truly the work that we're doing is complementary by taking, into consideration those aesthetic protections when we're doing our management and offering those recreation opportunities. And again, that collaborative working relationship with the Lower Wisconsin Riverway Board. Again, partnering for over 35 years. I know that Mark will talk about it, the celebration they just were able to have this past October. It really is key to protecting, preserving, and enjoying that scenic beauty and the natural values of the Riverway. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mark to really share some of the amazing work that they've been able to do.
Welcome, Mark.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Deputy Secretary, and board members. My name is Mark Cupp. I've been with the Riverway Board since it started. So 35 years now. Prior to that, I worked at the state capitol for former state Senator Richard Krull. And before that, Dale Schultz, when he was in the assembly and known for his work in the state senate as well. I also serve as chair of the Wisconsin Land and Water Conservation Board. I was appointed to that board in December of 2000. And so I've been subsequently appointed by a number of governors and served as chair for the last 14 or 15 years. I kind of lose track of that. So a long history working with DNR on multiple levels. So I got a lot of slides to whip through here in a short amount of time. So as Diane mentioned, the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway Board is a regulatory agency. We are either the smallest or one of the smallest state agencies in Wisconsin. We're Agency 360, DNR Agency 370. You have 50% of the staff represented here today. The Wisconsin River is 430 miles long, begins at Lac Boudezère on the border with the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we're focused on that final 92 miles. So give you that 6-county area Diane mentioned: Dane, Sauk, Iowa, Richland, Grant, and Crawford. The board that I work for is a 9-member citizen board. We currently have 1 vacancy. So 1 member each from those counties along the river, and then 3 at-large members who represent recreational user groups. Again, it begins at the last dam on the Wisconsin River, the hardest working river in the nation, and extends to the confluence with the Mississippi River near Prairie du Chien. So as a regulatory agency, we issue permits for activities on lands within that riverway boundary, that 95,000 plus acres. DNR has to get permits from the Riverway Board, just like any private landowner. That was a key element of that compromise. And I worked to help write the law with Jim Kurtz from the Bureau of Legal Services here at DNR, and then also with the Legislative Reference Bureau, and helped craft the compromise, working with the governor's office, Spencer Black, and the Republican legislators. So I know the law intimately and the intent. And so when we drafted this and got it through the compromise and actually written into law and administrative rules, it was designed to balance protection of landowner rights with protection of the resources, and particularly the unique aspect of aesthetic protection. So can you imagine going to the legislature today and say, hey, we got an idea to protect scenic beauty, and we're going to do it with statutory authority behind us? Probably wouldn't happen, would it? Okay, so some of the successes that we have. Diane referred to the Ramsar designation of wetlands of international importance. Wisconsin Wetlands Association kind of led the charge on this. Katie Belfast, but also the Friends of the Lower Wisconsin has become an incredible advocate for the Riverway. Things that the department can't do and the Riverway Board can't do. And they have a science team that's incredible. One of their subcommittees made up of a lot of retired DNR employees that worked hard on this designation. It doesn't come with additional regulatory overhead, but it identifies the importance of these riverway wetlands. Private landowners were involved. DNR employees were involved in gathering some of the data. And then, of course, the Riverway Board. A great success that accentuates all of these wetlands in the Riverway, these bottomland forests and these other key wetlands. Very important. We had low water conditions in 2023. Jean Unmuth, retired DNR person, water regulations and zoning. She was out below the dam, just like looking for things along the river. And all of a sudden she saw all of these mussels are stranded. Oh my God, she starts picking them up, throwing them into the water because we had record low flows there for a while. And she called me and said, you know, I was just out there looking around. We got all these mussels that are stranded. So I called Tim Zum, the president of the Friends of Lower Wisconsin, said, hey, you got an opportunity here for volunteers because we got stranded mussels. So he calls the River Alliance of Wisconsin. We called Lisi Kitchell, the incredible mussel expert that DNR has. Next thing you know, we got people all over the place coming out to help rescue mussels. We got media attention spread all over social media. Got guys from Hawaii contacting me and said, I can't come there, but I got friends that have land near me. Can you put me in touch with people? Now we have a network that we can call when there's low water to go out and rescue mussels. And we've got teachers that have kids out there that are learning about river safety, how to do it, and how to rescue mussels. You take a bad situation and turn it into a real positive for the river. And I can't sing high enough praises for Lisi. She's an incredible ambassador for the department and for mussels. We just completed the Lone Rock Bridge project. Statutorily, the Department of Transportation has to notify and consult with the department, as in DNR, and the board, Riverway Board, on any projects, highway projects, bridge projects that have an impact on the Riverway. So you got a bridge going across the river. What are you going to do from an aesthetic protection perspective? Well, over the years, we developed this idea, started with the Spring Green Highway 14 bridge. We developed this motif, utilizing a sandbar color, and then certain aesthetic treatments on the bridge to break up this big gray expanse of concrete. And so now we just had the dedication of this in November with the Department of Transportation Secretary. So here's showing the old bridge where it was torn down and the new bridge. And you could see how the colorization here is intended to resemble sandbar color. It's another example. So when you're on the river and you're coming down, it blends in as well as a bridge over the river can do. So we now have Highway 14 at Spring Green, Highway 23 at Spring Green, the Lone Rock Bridge, Highway 130. We're developing this motif now for bridges over the river. And hopefully that'll continue. The next one will be the bridge at Blue River, which is the county bridge right now. We have taken the Voyager canoes that were commissioned by the state of Wisconsin in 1998, and they're managed by the Department of Natural Resources based in Navarino right now. So I have to go get those. It's about a 3-hour and 45-minute trip there, and then take them back. But that's programming that we now do out of our office and very popular with the public. I also found the challenges in 2023 because of low water, and in 2024 because of high water. I had to cancel a whole bunch of trips. We're able to do this now. This year we did trips with the Wisconsin Trails Council. We also did some DNR staff trips, Wisconsin Wetlands Association, UW Alumni Group, Aldo Leopold Foundation, as well as these public trips that we do signups for. A great way to safely bring people out to the river, usually 8 adults per canoe, and there are 2. And we can educate people about the history of the river and the resources, and it's a great way to get people out there. I also serve as vice president of the Three Eagles Foundation that deals specifically with this site. This is near Muscoda. It's the highest concentration of bird effigy mounds anywhere in the world. There's also a site, it doesn't show up real well here, but hopefully you could see the lime outline. And this is in a farm field, a private landowner. We worked for decades to get permission to outline this with lime. And Richie Brown, who's on my board, he's a member of the Ho-Chunk Nation, worked with his team to get this done just about a year ago. The largest known bird effigy mound is at the grounds of the Mendota Mental Health Institute here in Madison. It has a wingspan of 600 feet. This bird is almost 1,300 feet. Very significant. And then this is on DNR property near Muscoda. Very unusual site, happens once in a great while, where the Wisconsin River is high, Mill Creek is high, and you have the air spirit intermingled with the water. Incredible site. So one of the challenges I have for the department is to do a better job of managing all of these sacred sites that are in the Riverway that have effigy mound sites, linear mounds, and conical mounds. I have volunteers available. I used to go out there and do this, and it got shut down because brush cutters with blades were considered, you had to have chainsaw safety training to use brush cutters with blades. And I thought it was ridiculous, but we're working on private land, so maybe we can get around that. Natural Resources Foundation trips. I did one in September with Dave Clutter at the Avoca Prairie, the largest wetland prairie east of the Mississippi River. I already have one scheduled next April 19th to do a mounds tour in the Riverway. So very cooperative with them. Did a lot of work with the Muscoda Chamber of Commerce. This is at the Muscoda Park overlooking the river, and it's the historic Muscoda Mile. Starts at the railroad park and then goes a mile down to the river and celebrates the history of Muscoda. And we're able to use this panel to talk specifically about the geologic history, the social history, going back to the Paleo Indians all the way through to the effigy mound builders, and then specifically the resources of the Riverway and the history of the Riverway beginnings. A real exciting project that just started now. I'm president of this, the Friends Group for the Cross Currents Heritage Center, the first non-native settler in Richland County, John Coombe, in 1838. His first 3 cabins were built on this property, and then he built this house in 1861. The original house has the parlor restoration. That's the original carpeting, replica of the original wallpaper. And so we're hoping now to make this an education center. Another group I lead, Cultural Landscape Legacies, that's dedicated to protection of rock art sites and mound sites in the upper Midwest. We did a tour of the Battle of Wisconsin Heights site. That's a DNR site in the town of Mazomanie, Dane County, just a short distance from Sauk City. And the period attire is David Jetson, who was the first DNR Riverway coordinator back in 1989. And he is an expert on this site and on the Black Hawk War and on Black Hawk himself. And he led that tour for us. And then finally, we get to the Riverway 35th anniversary. On the left slide is my grandson, Henry, who did the Pledge of Allegiance, knocked it out of the park. We should have just stopped right there. But then they surprised me with this plaque, and that's Tim Zum, who's the president of FLOW, former Governor Thompson, me, Spencer Black, and Dale Schultz. And that plaque is a piece of walnut from Dale's farm in Sauk County. And they had a Muscoda business, Foggy Bottom Woodworks, do some inscriptions on that. It was a very nice event. We reached out to the department to have someone from DNR on our program, and we didn't get a response, unfortunately, but I was so pleased that my friend Marcy West was able to join and kind of represent the Natural Resources Board at that event. So it turned out to be a very great day as we celebrated the 35th anniversary of the Riverway, the Riverway Board, and I was able to acknowledge the DNR staff in attendance, as well as retired DNR folks that I've worked with over the years who happened to be there. This is a shot of who our current members are. My assistant on the bottom right, Marcia, who's been with the agency, Marcia Curtis, since 2001. So between the two of us, we have almost 56 years with the Riverway. And then I'm very committed to equity, diversity. And so as you could see, we have equal representation gender-wise on the board, and Richie Brown is our longest tenured member on the board. He does not represent the Ho-Chunk Nation as a designated member, but he has a wealth of knowledge. He used to head up the Ho-Chunk DNR in his younger days. So that is what our current composition is on the board, and 2 of the 3 ladies are on our executive committee as officers. A couple of this last things to wrap up, and then if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them. You know, I keep hammering the importance of the stewardship fund. You know, it's been choked off, and we have had so many missed opportunities. Diana's talked about the acquisitions we've had, but there are still some of those gems out there. And when Jim Lemke was talking earlier, we've had a couple great ones that have slipped by. There are a couple still out there, but we could add so much to the value of the Riverway. Just continuing to enhance communications between our 2 agencies. We could still work on that. Right now, you never know what's going to pop up in the Riverway. I'm working with the Woldersheim Winery and Distillery across the river from Sauk City, Prairie du Sac. Little 7-acre piece was acquired because of aesthetic protection reasons, but it's open to hunting. There's Philippe Cocard and Julie had a problem with trespassing into the vineyard. And then it's surrounded by residences. And during gun deer season, they're worried about safety as well as a trespass. So the DNR Riverway Park manager is a new guy, Harrison Stone. He's trying to be proactive. He put up some boundary signs, but rifle usage during gun deer season, there's a safety issue there. So we're continuing to work on that. It's not anti-hunting. Philippe is a hunter, but it's a safety issue. I'm also working on the Sauk City Recreational Bridge, the old railroad bridge. Boy, is that going to be exciting when that's done, connecting Dane County to Sauk County and that whole bridge trail. And I've always held this vision to connect Devil's Lake to Wyalusing with trails, and it's coming closer all the time. And I really want to express my thanks to the DNR field staff that I work with in the Riverway. The State Natural Areas Program, we talked about the 20 state natural areas. They come to me for permits to work on different habitat types that they have in the state natural areas. We get them on a 2-year cycle. So about half of them come every year, and we just review what's going on in these things. And it's just a management permit. The foresters who always are there to give me assistance when I need it on private lands, as well as reviewing what they're doing on timber harvesting on state lands, as well as the wildlife crew, and then occasionally with fisheries. So we have a close working relationship with all the DNR field staff, and they're all excellent. And so I really want to express thanks to the board for the opportunity to be here today, particularly Marcy. We have long shared experiences together from her time with the Kickapoo Project. I just read her book. There were so many commonalities as I read for the times when she was going through those formative years at the Kickapoo Project. And I thought, yeah, been there, done that. So thank you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or share the podium with Diane.
Any questions from the board? Questions, comments for Mark or Diane?
Just if we could follow up, and thank you, and Cheryl, plug your ears about that book. But the makeup of the board, I requested that this come on the agenda because for the new board members, we have a few examples like this, very few examples like this in the state of this unique makeup. But just touch on having that representation from the county level and those relationships. I mean, one of the things early on that we all recall was that this was going to ruin the economy of that area, or it was going to be overreach or whatever. And what we've seen over the past 35 years is that balance. And from my perspective, I think a lot of that has to do with that local input on the board.
There were two key elements to the compromise. One was that the Department of Natural Resources would not be vested with control over the new regulations, the scenic protection regulations. The other was that we changed the original language from scenic zoning that was in the final environmental impact statement, took out the zoning word altogether, and changed it to performance standards. And just the Z word was inflammatory, especially for those people who were opposed to any type of land use regulation. So when you have zoning, it tends to say, no, you can't do this. But performance standards say, yeah, you can do it within these parameters. And so I've been tasked to say to the landowner, I'm here to help you achieve your goals or objectives within the constraints of the law. So there's a problem here. Let's figure out how we can make this happen. And we've only had 2 court cases in 35 years where people simply would not cooperate. Timber harvesting violation was one of them, and the other one was a frac sand mining location. So we really tried to work cooperatively and get ahead of it. The board composition was designed to reflect local control over the decision-making process, and that's why 6 of the 9 members come from those counties. The county boards nominate at least 2 individuals, and the governor chooses from their list. They could have 20, but at least 2. And then the 3 at-large members are appointed subject to Senate confirmation. They're appointed directly by the governor. And that reflects that local control, but still statewide interest in the project.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. So again, thank you and congratulations on 35 years. The challenges aren't over, I know, but I like success stories.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Robin.
So, yeah, this is a great presentation from both of you, and it makes me feel old because I think of a lot of history of camping and canoe trips down the lower Wisconsin River and how special it really is. I'm curious about your comment about the spiritual and culturally historic sites and whether or not there's the ability to add a tribal member to the board. Is that, I mean, you have some representation on there, but I kind of feel like I'm just curious. I know when it originally was created, that probably set the parameters, but has there been a push to get more tribal representation on the board?
There hasn't been any formal effort to do so. Since I work with different organizations that specifically deal with sacred sites, I have a fairly close working relationship with the Ho-Chunk Nation in particular. But as far as any formal overture to the legislature to make this a part of the 3 at-large positions, having someone from one of the recognized tribal entities in Wisconsin, there hasn't been a push for that.
And then one other question, and I'm not sure who might best address it, but one of the things that we have all learned over time is the importance of protecting the borders around larger waterways from a flood perspective, flood mitigation perspective, and you know, kind of economic impact for communities living along those areas. And I'm wondering if you have seen economic benefits from all of the land preservation that's been done that has resulted in a minimization of flooding impacts on communities along the riverway.
I could start on that if Diane wants to add anything. Because this riparian area has such a large floodplain forest associated with it, there is this built-in buffer. And so there's automatically almost a no-build zone because of floodplain regulations. And there used to be a lot of little shacks in that floodplain, but since 1967, when floodplain ordinances went into effect, we've seen many of those removed over time. There are still a few isolated areas where there are some of those floodplain seasonal residences maintained. But for the most part, there hasn't been new development in the floodplain. In terms of capitalization of opportunities for the Riverway, in the last 15 years, I've seen economic development and tourism-related things turning toward the river more than ever before. Sauk City, Prairie du Sac, for example, very much so capitalizing on the river. Eagle Days in January in Sauk City, Prairie du Sac is, you know, $1 to $2 million economic impact, bringing people in. Muscoda has invested in that riverfront park I mentioned, Victoria Riverside Park, where they have one of the best campgrounds on the river. Sauk Prairie du Sac has VFW Park. Next one is Muscoda. So that's 45 miles downstream. Boscobel has proclaimed themselves as Wisconsin outdoor destination, and they have the biggest outfitter for canoeing rentals on the river. So yes, it has an economic impact for sure.
Other questions, comments?
So kind of a follow-up question on that. Is there any way that they've been able to track the number of visitors or people on the river over time since the development, or?
There are different studies that have tried to do that. And I just read the email blast from Governor Evers and from related to the outdoor recreation figures that just came out. And I read it so quickly, I can't really spout it back to you other than it was really promising. And that investment in the outdoor recreation sector is really paying huge dividends. And that is reflective in the lower Wisconsin Riverway for sure. And just one quick follow-up to Marcy's question. Early on, people thought, oh, this is going to affect land values negatively. It's been absolutely the other way. The Riverway has turned land values up, not down. Thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Mark, thank you for a very inspiring presentation and an example of success when people pull together, work together, and particularly you personally with your long-term tenure and experience and dedication to the project. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 7, Department Secretaries Matters. Deputy Secretary Little.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 7A, let's start with retirement recognition. I have one retirement recognition. This is Mr. Jeffrey A. Jandren, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, 34 years. I request a motion to approve this recognition.
So moved.
Patty has a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Doug seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 7B, acts of the Secretary. Real estate transactions. Are there any questions on the real estate transactions? Adhering to the 5-second rule, I will take that as a no. And then 7C, Department Secretaries Matters. I just had a couple of things that I wanted to share with the board. Number one, I wanted to just give some preliminary an update on the 9-day deer hunt season. We'll have a more robust presentation to the board after the 2024-2025 season concludes. But I just wanted to share that over the last 9-day deer gun season, just really happy to report that it was a successful hunt. It's an opportunity for our citizens and our enthusiasts of the outdoors to take part in the start of the holiday season. It's a cherished event that our residents and the opportunity to enjoy the outdoors, to harvest food for their tables, and to create lasting memories with family and friends. Last week, the DNR released preliminary data on licensed sales, harvest registration, and hunting incidents for this year's hunt. As it relates to preliminary license sales, early data shows a slight increase in the number of deer hunters compared to 2023. As of Sunday, December 1st, a total of 791,023 deer hunting licenses had been sold, compared to 788,697 during the same period last year. Of these, 553,652 licenses were for gun hunting privileges alone, which is up slightly from 553,479 in 2023. Deer hunting license and harvest authorization sales will continue through the remainder of the deer hunting seasons. Final sales figures will be released in January after a detailed analysis. I can share with you the preliminary harvest totals hunters registered 189,622 deer during the 2024 deer season. This includes 89,787 antlered deer, and 99,835 antlerless deer. This represents a 5.2 increase in the total harvest compared to 2023, with antlered deer registrations up 3.6% and antlerless registrations up 6.6%. Since the start of the bow and crossbow seasons earlier this year, hunters have registered 289,361 deer statewide, an 8.7% increase over the same period in 2023. Detailed harvest data, including county level figures, are available on DNR's Wisconsin Deer Harvest Summary page. The remaining seasons for 2024, the regular deer gun season ran through December 1st. The muzzleloader season ends today. The statewide antlerless only hunt will start on December 12th and go through December 15th. And then we have the holiday antlerless only hunt, which starts December 24th through January 1st for select farmland zone counties. I'm also happy to report that 2024 was the safest as it relates to hunting incidents in at least the last 10 years. The DNR reports only one non-fatal firearm-related hunting incident during the 2024 season that occurred in Vernon County, Wheatland Township, where on the 29th of November, there was a 14-year-old male who was injured while hunting with his father in an enclosed tower stand on private property. The father reported hearing what it sounded like a gunshot in the distance before the victim, the 14-year-old, felt pain in both feet. He was later treated at a hospital for gunshot wounds to the left and right feet or foot. The shooter has been identified and an investigation is ongoing, which leads me to a safety reminder. With hunting season continuing into January 2025, the DNR urges all hunters to follow the TAB-K firearm safety rules. T, treat every firearm as if it is loaded. A, always point the muzzle in a safe direction. B, be certain your target and what's beyond it. And K, keep your finger outside the trigger guard until you're ready to shoot. So with that, I will just say to the NRB board, I hope you have a happy and safe holiday season, and I look forward to seeing you all in the new year.
Thank you very much. Next item is 8, Board Members Matters. We've done something a little different here. It's alphabetical order, but each successive meeting, we're going to shift who's on top and adjust the order down so that it gives everybody a fair chance to be under the gun first and also to be in the anchor position, cleaning up after everybody else. So at this meeting, Rachel, you've been moved to the bottom, and Doug, you're first. So Board Members Matters, Doug.
Alphabetically first.
Yes.
All right. Yep. Thanks, Chair, and thanks everybody for a good meeting today. So the first thing, I guess, is last month I had an opportunity to meet. Stephen assisted me in setting up a meeting with staff, DNR staff, technical and legal. We talked about some tribal permitting issues within tribal lands that have been concerns to a number of tribes. One specific to Lac du Flambeau, we didn't get to talk a lot about due to the status of that situation. But, it was, I guess I would say it was a productive meeting. We had the right staff there to have the right discussions in that regard. I don't think, in my mind, the outcome was where I would have liked it to be. But again, it's not the only thing that we'll ever agree to disagree on, certainly. But again, those issues will will continue to be things that are important and matters in my mind, and continue to bring them to staff or to the board when they do arise. But again, thanks for the assistance in bringing staff together and for helping with that meeting. Appreciate it. While I was here last month, I also had a chance to meet with River Alliance folks. So I went over and had a meeting with them. We talked about a number of things, especially waters related, obviously, dam issues, permitting issues, dam removal items, those kinds of things. River Alliance did remind me that they had commented on our rule, encouraged DNR to move forward with the PFAS rule faster than the 30-month timeline, and we heard that from others as well in comments on that rule. You know, River Alliance believes that much of the work EPA has done scientifically to set maximum contaminant levels should be built off of and make it easier for DNR to move on that rule. So we talked a lot about contamination issues besides the dam stuff, and River Alliance is active and they'll continue to be. So they're great folks to meet with and great folks to have supporting us when we're developing these rules. I think that's about it, other than congrats to Jim. Had a chance to know him over the year that I've been here, and knowing his work, and similar to my work that I do for the tribe in lands, and when acquisitions happen and land valuations happen and land things happen, that they're not easy task, and he always brings it with passion and excitement. So I know folks that have known him for years, and they all react the same way. So congrats, Jim, and hope we stay in communication. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Deb Dasso, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. And I would also like to congratulate Jim. He was one of the first people to reach out to me, and I got to go on a field trip with Marcy and Jim, and just kindness and generosity always, and wishing you well. I have been invited to attend a meeting in one of our local watershed protection groups called Ulio Creek Partnership in January, and just kind of listen to what they're doing. They're a small landowner-based group, but does have some public connections. And the last thing I'd like to say is going back to Deputy Little's comments about the tree lighting ceremony. Marcy alerted me to the fact that Robin was going to be representing the NRB at that meeting. If you had a chance, she was a rock star. The way she absolutely highlighted the work of the DNR, highlighted the work of this board, and also a poet. She ended with a poem that she created. We're making sure that people are urged to go to our parks and enjoy. And she was absolutely fabulous. She was a rock star. I call it a geek. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Patty?
I want to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Good luck, Jim. Retirement will be awesome. And that the two items that I keep hearing up in our neck of the woods is the future of what wildlife is going to look like after 2025, and particularly with the wolf management, what's going to happen there, and water quality truly is on everyone's mind when it comes to PFAS and everything. So how that's going to happen, especially for all those rural wells. There's plans for the cities and municipalities, but what's actually going to be the plan for rural? So those are the two big things.
Thank you. Robin?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, it was an honor to represent the board at the tree lighting. It was like one of the funnest things that I've done. It was really, what a great event. And all of the ornaments on that tree were made by kids throughout Wisconsin as part of their art projects. And it's just phenomenal talent and passion for the state park. So that was really great. I also wanted to give kudos, not only do like all the staff who get to present here do exceptional work, but Marcy and I were at the Monroe County Climate Action Task Force meeting, and Helena Tiedman is that, gave a really interesting presentation on climate tools and resources for local officials to develop water quality management plans. And all of that is available on the DNR website through their mapping tool. And it was, as a former geographer, it was really awesome to kind of see public access to all those, and you can put in all different criteria and come up with all different information about climate change over the past 50 years. It was really a very great presentation, and she's a very talented staff. So kudos to her. I also wanted to mention that the League of Women Voters and the American Association of Civil Engineers Wisconsin section has been doing a series of webinars on the report card for Wisconsin infrastructure. And coming up on December 14th is a program on dams and stormwater. And then on January 9th is their program on drinking water and wastewater. And they're really informative webinars by a lot of hard work that's done by those two groups. So I encourage folks to listen in on those if they're interested in hearing more information. I also wanted to mention, I also I attended a webinar on discussions that states are having about a Mississippi River Compact, similar to the Great Lakes Compact. And it's a long ways out there if it ever happens. There's a lot of challenges, but it was really informative about river systems, and it made me reflect on that, hearing the presentation on the Lower Wisconsin Riverway board and their activities. And it just got me thinking about how rivers are such different, require different management strategies because they're not stagnant like lakes. So maybe more to come on that. Again, a lot of challenges with that, but very, very interesting. And lastly, I'm not sure if I haven't read this, but I did get notice. I was intrigued that Wisconsin Green Fire has a new report on the health of our forests. And I said, I'm not endorsing that. I just thought it might be an interesting read. I haven't looked at it yet, but they often have pretty good science-based information. So anything we can do to educate ourselves about the forests is always a good opportunity. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Marcy?
I lost track of our alphabet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not much, just the testimony on the lead toxicity. I'm not sure which division or staff it would be, but a few years ago we had a presentation on that, and some of the issues that were brought up was the availability of alternatives and the cost of alternatives, and maybe a little bit on what other states are doing to address that. If somebody out there is listening and has clear information on that, I would appreciate that. Stephen?
Sure, thank you for the request or the question. We have asked Scott Lumens, who is our policy advisor, as it relates to conservation issues, and he also has some knowledge on some U.S. Fish and Wildlife pilot programs that have been created to address this particular issue. So we've just tasked him with helping that, and the reason why Scott's been asked is because he can bridge kind of the fisheries component as well as the wildlife component as well. So
awesome. All right, thank you. Way ahead of me. And then just last, as compliments continue to go out, the communications crew, the press releases I shared with some of the other board members, the subscriber service, the issues like the unsafe ice conditions last weekend going out real quick, and the things with holiday ornaments and how to recycle properly or minimize impacts. If you're not already aware, there's an awesome communication system going out there, getting good information out, and so I really appreciate that and hope it can continue. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. Rachel?
Okay. I guess I wanted to second the compliment to the communications team, both through the email blasts as well as their social media content. There's some definitely well-written and interesting and funny, entertaining posts that they do. I also have wanted to thank all the division leaders and staff that has taken the time to meet with me in the last month to share more information about their programs, as well as kind of what the hot topics are, where their successes are, and where they could use some help. And then Chief, I don't know if Chief Krieger is in here still, connected me with some of my local DNR conservation wardens, and I was able to do a ride along the Saturday of the second Saturday of the gun hunt. And it was really interesting. And I guess my big takeaway was, you know, through all these meetings, just the incredible passion of everyone that I've met with for the department, their positions, as well as our resources. So just want to thank everyone for taking the time and putting up with my onslaught of questions. What else did I have on my list? One of the questions that did kind of come up in that ride along, as well as with people in my area, was with thermoscopes, and that the rules, the rules aren't as clear as people would like, that the rules aren't keeping up with technology, and no one really has a clear answer and doesn't want to do anything wrong. So that came up for a few people, as well as wolf management continues to come up. And then I second the rural wells. I guess that's kind of all I've got. This is kind of getting into our very busy meeting and conference season in agriculture. So kind of continuing to use my existing connections, as well as what I'm learning through DNR program, to promote healthy soil and water and all of our resources. And again, congratulations to Jim, and a Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you, Rachel. I have a couple of items just on topical stuff. Heard some of the same things people have already mentioned. I won't repeat it, but related to the lead exposure and impacts on wildlife, we recently had testimony on the risk of consumption of venison that has microscopic lead in it. And that's another aspect of the lead and health risks associated with hunting and ammunition. So I don't want to forget that. And as we explore this issue in the future, maybe we can keep those two things tied together, because they're both very important impacts, and it all comes back to lead and ammunition. The second one is I'm very, very encouraged by the generous offer that Jim Olson presented on the wake surfing issue and the hydroblasting pilot. It's another example, I think, of the generosity and the commitment we see from citizens in the state. It's been an issue that's been before the board regularly for the past 2 years, and typically we wouldn't do this, but I would ask Deputy Secretary Little, if as you work through this, as staff work through it with Jim on a possible pilot, if they could keep the board informed of how that turns out. We don't need to be there on the play-by-play, meeting by meeting, but I would like to get feedback on whether or not that's a viable option. Administrative announcement and a reminder to the board members. We have board elections for the board officer positions coming up in January. And again, I would encourage everyone to take a look at that and see if it's something that you'd be interested in and available for. Think about that between now and January, and encouraging people to step up. And lastly, Deb, you stole my thunder on Robin's speech. You gave her a recognition that I can't come close to. But I did ask a favor of Robin for one aspect of that. I was also just very touched by the personal poetry at the end of the speech. I wish we had the time to have Robin give the whole speech here, because it was It was an outstanding speech. It was emotional, personal, it was promotional for the department. And she ended up with this neat little poem at the end. And I thought that would be nice to close out the board meeting if we would ask Robin to just condense those comments at the end and give us that little holiday poem.
Want me to publicize my dorkiness?
Absolutely. And we'll celebrate it.
All right, thanks. And I will do that, but I failed to mention that whoever approved Jim's retirement, I want to talk to them after a little while, because I'm not sure that that really should have gone through. Jim, just best of luck to you. You have been such an amazing contributor to this agency. So with that, okay, so it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in state parks across the state. From Bigfoot Beach to Rocha Cree, the trails are calling me. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. The angels all sing hark, peace and goodwill to you all. And don't forget to go explore your favorite state park.
Yay.
So you better trademark that out.
I said,
Parks
speaking of the
program's gonna grab it.
communications department, yeah. Diane, you're on that? Yeah, exactly.
So with that, that's pretty much a wrap on my board members' matters, other than a very, very sincere wishes for a very happy and enjoyable holiday season for everyone. And with that, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Patty moves adjournment. Do we have a second? Robin seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Everybody safe travels home.
11:35 a.m.
Thanks.